Chapter 25-19. Until a month and a half ago, Gao Shueting suddenly told her that she had some clues, but she needed to work with others to crack it. That day she left some cultivation resources behind and left Earth City, disappearing without a trace. 7 days ago the Azure Sun Pavilion was suddenly surrounded by the City Lord's Mansion's guards. Those guards didn't say what the Azure Sun Pavilion had done and just surrounded it, not allowing anyone to enter. Speaking of this, Lu Wen was suddenly shocked and asked, "Brother Yang, how did you come in? Those City Lord's Mansion people should still be outside." Yang Kai grinned and said, "If I want to come in, how can those scums stop me?" After a pause he frowned and said, "Elder Gao left here a month and a half ago, saying that she wanted to work with others to crack the secret of the animal skin, but 7 days ago, this place was surrounded by the City Lord's Mansion people for no reason." Lu Wen said anxiously, "So Junior Sister suspects that Elder Gao may have encountered some danger. The reason why they surrounded the Azure Sun Pavilion is because they are afraid that I will pass some information to the outside. After all, Elder Gao did not hide her whereabouts when she went in and out of the Azure Sun Pavilion a few days ago, so it is easy to find out that she is related to the Azure Sun Pavilion." Yang Kai nodded and said, "You are right. If this is the case, then Earth City must be involved." Lu Wen said sadly, "Junior Sister really had no other choice but to use her own token to send a message. Even in a desperate situation, she really did not expect Senior Brother Yang to come." Yang Kai said, "I also passed by because I have something to do." If Yang Kai hadn't passed by Earth City by chance, Lu Wen wouldn't have been able to summon anyone. After all, this was the Eastern Territory. It was very far away from the Azure Sun Temple. The people of the temple would not come here for no reason. Although Gao Shueting had a cold temperament, she had always been good to Yang Kai. She personally handed the Azure Sun Golden Token to Yang Kai and even had the idea of accepting Yang Kai as a disciple and teaching him cultivation. Now that Gao Shueting might be in trouble, Yang Kai certainly couldn't stand idly by. Of course this was just a guess. It could also be a misunderstanding, but the fact that the City Lord's Mansion's people had surrounded the Azure Sun Pavilion was more or less a blatant lie. If it weren't for Gao Shueting, why would they surround this place for no reason? In that case, the City Lord's Mansion must be closely related to this matter. Yang Kai pondered for a moment, his thoughts gradually smoothing out. Lu Wen said, "Junior Sister also guessed the same. Elder Gao said before that she wanted to find someone to work together to crack the secret on the animal skin. Only City Lord Zhu Hong is a First-Order Emperor Realm Master. If Elder Gao is looking for someone to join forces with, Zhu Hong is the best choice." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and grinned. "Since we have a suspect, it will be much easier. Brother Yang, what do you plan to do?" Lu Wen looked at him with an evil smile. Suddenly he had a bad feeling. "What else can we do? Naturally, we have to ask him face to face." Yang Kai snorted softly. Lu Wen was shocked and said, "Brother, don't be impulsive. Zhu Hong is a First-Order Emperor Realm Master who has been in this realm for more than 40 years. He is extremely powerful and has an Emperor artifact. Although brother is an elite disciple of the temple, I'm afraid that if he goes up against the Emperor realm, I'm afraid." She didn't finish her sentence, but her meaning was very obvious. She felt that Yang Kai was no match for Zhu Hong. Yang Kai smiled and said, "Junior Sister Lu, don't worry. Zhu Hong is nothing to brother." After a pause he ordered Zhang Ruoxi, "Take Junior Sister Lu and leave Earth City through the back door and wait for me outside the city. Since this has happened, there is no need to stay here any longer. Junior Sister Lu should return to the temple as soon as possible." "Yes, sir." Zhang Ruoxi looked solemn. Only then did Yang Kai's figure flicker and suddenly disappear. This. Lu Wen was stunned, shocked and anxious. She had clearly told Brother Yang that Zhu Hong was a master from the Emperor realm. Why was he still so hot-blooded and impulsive? Zhang Ruoxi smiled slightly and said, "Sister, don't worry about my sir. Zhu Hong is no match for him." "Sir?" Lu Wen looked at Zhang Ruoxi in amazement and said, "Sister, are you not a disciple of the temple?" Zhang Ruoxi shook her head and said, "I'm just a member of a small family. Sir didn't abandon me and kept me by his side to guide my cultivation. That's why I have today's achievements." Lu Wen was shocked. She could sense that Zhang Ruoxi's cultivation was higher than hers. She was a second-order Dao Source Realm Master, and Zhang Ruoxi was stronger than her. That meant that she was in the third-order Dao Source realm. But such a master was only taught by Brother Yang? He was no worse than the elite disciples of those big sects. "What's Brother Yang's cultivation?" Lu Wen asked in surprise. Zhang Ruoxi pursed her lips and smiled. She felt honored and said lightly, Sir is already an Emperor Realm Master. Lu Wen was completely shocked. Her eyes, which had been hazy for a long time, gradually shone brightly. The darkness and anxiety in front of her were swept away. Outside Azure Sun Pavilion in the tea house, Master Jia stared at the entrance of Azure Sun Pavilion with his eagle-like eyes. He unconsciously lifted the teacup in his hand and brought it to his mouth. He didn't know the origins of the man and woman who had entered Azure Sun Pavilion earlier. He had asked his subordinates to investigate, but they couldn't find anything. It seemed that they had just entered the city today. This made Master Jia vigilant. He was afraid that the man and woman really had something to do with the city lord's instructions. He didn't dare to miss any details. His mind was completely immersed in Azure Sun Pavilion. Suddenly, an extremely uneasy feeling rose in his heart, as if some danger was approaching, causing his heart to beat wildly. Before Master Jia could react, he suddenly noticed a person appear out of the corner of his eye. He quickly turned his head and looked, his eyes widening. He saw the young man from before sitting in the chair opposite him, looking at him with a smile. Pooh! Master Jia couldn't hold back and sprayed a mouthful of tea at Yang Kai. Yang Kai waved his hand, and the tea mist changed direction, directly spraying Master Jia's face. Hurriedly standing up, he wiped his face and stared at Kai Yang with great vigilance, his heart filled with shock. With his cultivation, he didn't notice how this young man appeared in front of him. If this young man wanted to harm him, wouldn't he be able to take his life at will? Thinking of this, Master Jia broke out in cold sweat. Sit. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile, but his eyes were like a poisonous snake, making Master Jia shudder. The latter hesitated for a moment, but still gritted his teeth and sat back down. His expression was extremely difficult, as if there were countless needles under his butt. How should I address you? Yang Kai asked. Jia Si. Nice to meet you, nice to meet you. Yang Kai gave a perfunctory reply. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Master Jia, you should know why this young master is looking for you, right? Jia Si wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and forced a smile. This young master must be joking. This Jia is leisurely making wine and tea here, but I wonder if this young master... His words suddenly paused as he stared at the palm-sized artifact in Yang Kai's hand and whispered, this shield. Jia Si's eyesight was naturally good. He could tell at a glance that the grade of the shield in Yang Kai's hand was not low. It seemed to be a Dao Source grade high rank, and it was a defensive artifact. It could be said to be extremely valuable. Even though he had the cultivation of the third order Dao Source realm, he could not help but breathe a little faster. Kacha. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and squeezed it. The shield was like a rock that had been eroded by wind and rain for thousands of years. It directly turned into dust and fell from his fingertips, scattering all over the ground. What shield? Yang Kai looked at him coldly. We were talking, so why did you raise the shield? Jia Si was sweating profusely and trembling all over as he said nervously, nothing. Yang Kai snorted. Master Jia seems to be a smart person. It shouldn't be too tiring to communicate. This young master has a few questions and would like to ask Master Jia to answer them. Jia Si hurriedly said, this young master may ask anything. Although this Jia is not talented, he has lived here for many years and knows Earth City like the back of his hand. Very good. Yang Kai nodded with satisfaction. His eyes turned cold as he asked, who asked you to monitor Azure Sun Pavilion here? Jia Si said with difficulty, it's the City Lord's master. Why did Zhu Hong ask you to monitor Azure Sun Pavilion? Jia Si said, the City Lord's master just said that if any suspicious person came in and out of Azure Sun Pavilion, he was to be arrested immediately. He must not be allowed to leave Earth City. Yang Kai raised his brow and snorted, the City Lord's master sure is awe-inspiring. Jia Si was shocked and hurriedly said, this Jia is just following orders. Please calm down, young master. Yang Kai asked, then do you know which force owns Azure Sun Pavilion? Jia Si said, I didn't know before. A few days ago, the City Lord's master asked me to inquire about the details of Azure Sun Pavilion. Only then did this Jia know that it is a shop opened by a disciple of Azure Sun Temple in the Southern Territory. You even managed to find this out, Senior Jia is truly amazing. Yang Kai sneered sarcastically. Jia Si trembled violently and said with a sad face, I was just following orders. Yang Kai interrupted him and said in a deep voice, then have you seen such a woman in the City Lord's mansion? While speaking, Yang Kai raised his hand and the Emperor Qi in his body surged, condensing an image of Gao Shueting in front of Jia Si. Jia Si glanced at it and shook his head blankly. I haven't seen her, but I heard from this subordinate that this woman often came in and out of Azure Sun Pavilion a few days ago. This Jia followed her clues and found out about Azure Sun Pavilion. Yang Kai frowned and said, "You haven't seen her?" According to his and Lu Wen's conjecture, Gao Shueting should have asked Zhu Hong to join forces to decipher the secrets on the animal skin. So, she should have been in and out of the city lord's mansion. Since Jia Si was Zhu Hong's confidant, there was no reason he hadn't seen her before. But judging from Jia Si's expression, he wasn't lying. Could it be that Gao Shueting really didn't look for Zhu Hong? Then who was she working with? Did the city lord's mansion have anything to do with this matter? If it wasn't for Gao Shueting, why would they monitor and surround Azure Sun Pavilion? Yang Kai was puzzled. Chapter 25-20. Jia Si observed Yang Kai's expression and faintly realized something. He gulped and said, "Young master, there is something this Jia doesn't know if he should say. If it's nonsense, then don't bother." Yang Kai looked at him coldly. Jia Si said, 1.5 months ago, Elder Zhu Tianqing came to see the city lord's master, and the next day the city lord's master left Earth City. Zhu Tianqing? Yang Kai raised his brow and asked, "Who is that?" Jia Si replied, "He is one of the 10 great elders of the Emperor realm of Brahma Holy Land. He has always had a close personal relationship with the city lord's master." Brahma Holy Land? Yang Kai couldn't help but be surprised. He naturally knew about Brahma Holy Land. It was one of the top sects in the Eastern Territory. In terms of status, it was similar to Azure Sun Temple in the Southern Territory. The 2 holy sons he met in the Shattered Star Sea, Zhang Xian and Zhang Hao, were from Brahma Holy Land. Their cultivation aptitude was really good. If it weren't for their bad luck of meeting him, they would have most likely broken through to the Emperor realm in this trip to the Shattered Star Sea. Zhu Tianqing was just one of the 10 great emperors of Brahma Holy Land. It seemed that Brahma Holy Land lived up to its reputation as a top sect. Its comprehensive strength was above Azure Sun Temple. What is Zhu Tianqing's cultivation? Yang Kai had a vague feeling that Zhu Tianqing should have a great relationship with Gao Shueting. He is also a First-Order Emperor Realm Master. Jia Si had already said so much, so naturally he wouldn't hide anything. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Judging from the strength Yang Kai displayed when he crushed the Dao Source grade high-rank artifact, he could kill him with just a flick of his finger. Jia Si didn't think his body could be as strong as that shield. Yang Kai nodded. He raised a finger. "Last question, do you know where Zhu Tianqing or Zhu Hong is now?" Jia Si wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said uneasily, "I really don't know." The cold light in Yang Kai's eyes suddenly became dangerous. Jia Si turned pale with fright and said with a long face, "City Lord Master didn't tell me anything before he left. I really don't know." He paused for a moment and then said in fear, "But if this young master really wants to know, I can tell you. This lowly one can help you look into it." "Investigate?" Yang Kai snorted. "Didn't you say that Zhu Hong didn't tell you anything before he left? How did you find out?" Jia Si trembled as he replied, "This humble one can ask the young city lord or the city lord's wife. The 2 of them may know something. If it doesn't work, this humble one can ask Elder Zhu's disciples. To be honest, this humble one has a good personal relationship with Elder Zhu's disciples. Perhaps they know where Elder Zhu is now." "How long?" Yang Kai asked coldly. "For hours?" No. 2 hours should be enough." Yang Kai suddenly smiled and said, "Then I'll have to trouble Master Jia. Go and come back quickly. I'll wait for you here." Jia Si suddenly jumped up and rushed out without stopping, as if something was chasing him from behind. But he had just moved his feet. Yang Kai casually made a mark on his body. Jia Si's face changed wildly. He looked at Yang Kai in horror, feeling as if the place where he was hit was burning, and the pain was unbearable. "Don't be nervous, this is just a secret technique of this young master. It's called the wrong bone and tendon separation seal. It won't have any effect on you in a short time." Yang Kai smiled innocently. "How long will it take?" Jia Si asked in a trembling voice. "If this young master doesn't remove the seal within 24 hours, your bones will be separated, your meridians will be broken, and your life will be worse than death." At the end of Yang Kai's voice was cold, like a cold wind blowing from the 9 hells of purgatory, making people's hair stand on end. Jia Si's face turned ashen, but the other side's fist was bigger than his, so he didn't dare to act rashly. After a while he stamped his feet and left as fast as he could. Yang Kai called the waiter of the tea house and asked him to bring him a new pot of tea, leisurely sipping it. It didn't take an hour at all. In just the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, Jianghu suddenly returned. So fast. Yang Kai looked at him in surprise and praised, Master Jia really has outstanding ability. This intelligence work is well known. You must be the right-hand man of the city master. Jianghu smiled flatteringly, it was just luck. Before the city master left, he revealed some information to the city lord's wife, so it was easy for me to find out. You can even find out about the city lord's wife? Jiske, isn't your city lord's head a little green? Yang Kai looked at him with a strange expression. Jianghu's expression changed, young master, please don't joke around. This Jia also found out the information from the city lord's wife's maidservant. It's not what you think. All right, Yang Kai responded lazily and said with a serious expression, tell me the answer I want. Jianghu said, the city lord's master said that he's going to Dragonbone Wilderness, but I don't know where exactly. Dragonbone Wilderness. Yang Kai's eyes flashed coldly. Jianghu said, this is this Jia's limit. I can't find out any more information. Young master you, Yang Kai nodded, stood up and patted him on the shoulder saying, understood. Let's part ways here. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure suddenly became absent-minded and then disappeared. Jianghu's expression changed greatly and he hurriedly said, that bone dislocation seal. But there was no trace of Yang Kai. For a moment, Jianghu was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, cursing Yang Kai in his heart for not keeping his promise and burning the bridge after crossing the river. How shameless. But soon, Jianghu realized that something was wrong because the burning sensation quickly disappeared. Using his divine sense to investigate himself, he found nothing unusual. Only then did Jianghu realize that Yang Kai patted him on the shoulder just now and should have removed the seal. Jianghu was overjoyed but he couldn't help shivering and quickly moved quietly towards the city gate, ready to leave Earth City immediately. Today he revealed so much information to Yang Kai. No matter what the final result was, he couldn't stay in Earth City any longer. If the City Lord Master returned safely, he would definitely be traced back to him. At that time, the crime of leaking information was not something he could bear. Even if the City Lord Master didn't return, God knows if Yang Kai would come to trouble him again. So, Jianghu thought that the only thing he could do now was to run as far away as possible. It would be best if he could escape the Eastern Territory and hide in another large territory. Outside the city, Yang Kai easily found Zhang Ruoxi and Lu Wen. After inviting them to board his wooden boat, Yang Kai asked Lu Wen for information. Where is the Dragonbone Wilderness? Lu Wen pointed in a direction and said, this way about 2 days' journey. After a pause, she asked in surprise, Elder Gao is in the Dragonbone Wilderness. It's very likely, Yang Kai responded in a deep voice, but I don't know the specific location. Is that damn place big? Big, very big. Lu Wen nodded. Rumor has it that it is an ancient battlefield where many people died. The Yinchi there is extremely rich. Many cultivators like to experience and explore there. Occasionally, a lucky person can find some extremely ancient treasures and make a fortune. Especially in the center, where the Yinchi is so dense that even the Emperor realm doesn't dare to approach it easily. Rumor has it that there are bones of the dragon race there, so everyone calls it the Dragonbone Wilderness. Yang Kai couldn't help but raise his brow and grin. Then let's go to the center and see the situation there first. The wooden boat was extremely fast. It was a Dao Source grade high-rank flight artifact, and with the help of Yang Kai's space divine technique, it was as if it was shuttling and jumping through space. In the blink of an eye, it had crossed hundreds of kilometers. Lu Wen didn't notice this anomaly at first, but after she calmed down, she realized that there was something wrong with this speed. She couldn't help but be shocked and her confidence in Yang Kai grew. In just half a day Yang Kai had arrived at the Dragonbone Wilderness. He saw a desolate death chi below him that stretched for an unknown distance. Some strange yin chi was swirling around like a whirlwind, and when it sensed the aura of living beings approaching, it actually gathered around them. This was only the periphery of the Dragonbone Wilderness, so the yin chi was extremely weak. It couldn't even get close to Yang Kai and the others before it was left far behind. Yang Kai had no intention of getting entangled with the yin chi. While going deeper, he spread out his divine sense like a sea, penetrating every corner that he could detect. He didn't know whether Gao Shueting was in the Dragonbone Wilderness or not, but this was the only clue he could find so far, so he could only follow it to the end. Half a day later, Yang Kai had already entered the hinterland of the Dragonbone Wilderness. Along the way, Yang Kai found that this was indeed a good place for a cultivator to gain experience and cultivate. If he was still in the Dao Source realm, this would be a good place for him to gain experience, but now that he had broken through to the Emperor realm, there was no point in cultivating here. Suddenly Yang Kai seemed to have discovered something and his eyes focused in a certain direction. He saw a few strong cultivators standing there, looking around vigilantly as if they didn't want anyone to come close. Not only that, there seemed to be something wrong somewhere in the space over there. This made Yang Kai suspicious, and he controlled the wooden boat to rush over there. Who goes there? Before Yang Kai could get close, a loud shout came from that direction. Halt! If you dare to come any closer, don't blame us for being impolite. Another person's voice came, containing a strong threat. Yang Kai didn't care about this. The wooden boat rushed forward and arrived in front of those people in an instant. Impudent! You're courting death. Several loud shouts rang out, followed by the radiance of several secret techniques. A ferocious power bombarded the wooden boat. Lu Wen was so scared that her face turned pale, and she almost couldn't stand still. Zhang Ruoxi, on the other hand, stood behind Yang Kai indifferently, turning a blind eye to the attacks. Asterisk hong hong hong. Asterisk a few explosions rang out, but the impact that everyone had expected did not come. Instead, on the other side of the wooden boat, the people who had attacked let out loud cries as if they had been attacked. Then, there were muffled groans and some people directly fell to the ground. Lu Wen's eyes widened, but she couldn't see what Yang Kai had done. Chapter 25-21. The few cultivators who had attacked Yang Kai were even more horrified, their faces ashen. They were all quite strong, otherwise they wouldn't have come so deep into the Dragonbone wilderness, but even though they had made the first move, they were still beaten senseless. Who the hell is this guy? Horrified, all of them stared at the wooden boat with wide eyes. You are Yang Kai. One of the short and stout men immediately exclaimed after seeing Yang Kai's face. The others also stared at Yang Kai in surprise, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Huh. Yang Kai was stunned, retracting his gaze from the anomaly in space and glancing down, frowning. Do you know me? The few cultivators below looked extremely unfamiliar. He was sure he had never seen them before, but how did they know him? Although he was now an Emperor Realm Master, he was not so arrogant that his name had spread to the Eastern Territory. The short and stout cultivator knew he had misspoken and immediately closed his mouth, unwilling to say another word, but his eyes were full of hatred and anger as he stared at Yang Kai, as if he had a great hatred for him. Brother Yang, these people are Zhu Tianqing's legacy disciples of Brahma Holy Land. Lu Wen suddenly whispered from behind Yang Kai. In the eastern region, she was mainly responsible for collecting all kinds of information, so she was not unfamiliar with the background of these people. She immediately recognized their origins. Yang Kai's eyes flashed as he nodded. Zhu Tianqing's legacy disciples, good. Very good. Zhu Tianqing's legacy disciples were here. This meant that Zhu Tianqing should also be nearby, and according to the information revealed by Jia Si, Zhu Tianqing was very likely to be with Zhu Hong. After finding these two people, Yang Kai felt that he would be able to find Gao Shueting, and couldn't help but feel excited. Suddenly, as if he had figured out something, he grinned at those people. Did Yin Lisheng tell you about my identity? Although Yin Lisheng had suffered a great loss in the Shattered Star Sea, he had not died. He had made a deal with Yang Kai, and after signing a soul contract, he had been taken out of the void by Yang Kai in exchange for revealing some information. With the soul contract, even if Yang Kai wanted to kill Yin Lisheng, he was powerless and could only watch him leave. They were experts from the Eastern Territory that Yang Kai met in the Shattered Star Sea. There were only a few of them. Hyoji Chigue, and the others would not be so bored as to spread his image and identity everywhere. Only Yin Lisheng could do such a thing. He probably guessed that he would come to the Eastern Territory to look for Xiao Xiao, so he notified the people of Brahma Holy Land in advance. As a result, he was recognized by several Brahma Holy Land cultivator as soon as he showed up. This brat was truly despicable. He actually wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work. However, he would never have imagined that Yang Kai had already broken through to the Emperor realm. It was exposed by Yang Kai. The short and fat cultivator no longer denied it. He gritted his teeth and snorted, "Yes, it was Netherworld Sect's brother Yin who told us about you." What else did he say? Yang Kai asked with a smile. The short and fat cultivator shouted. He also said that the two holy sons, Zhang Hao and Zhang Xian, died tragically at your hands. Yang Kai nodded and said, "So, it seems that your Brahma Holy Land is looking for my whereabouts everywhere, right?" The short and fat cultivator snorted. The two holy sons were the future hope of my Brahma holy land, yet they were cruelly killed by you. Do you think this holy land will let you off easily? If you know what's good for you, you will obediently follow us back to the holy land to meet the elders and holy master. Perhaps you will be dealt with lightly, but if you are stubborn, my Brahma holy land will chase you to the ends of the earth. No matter where you hide, you will not escape death. Yang Kai said lightly, you probably won't be able to see whether I die or not. But whether you die or not is up to this young master to decide. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the short and fat cultivator and the others changed drastically, and they all stared at Yang Kai vigilantly. Yang Kai's gaze swept past them and looked at the void not far behind them and asked in a deep voice, "Is Zhu Tianqing there?" The short and fat cultivator was shocked and shouted, "What are you talking about?" His face was full of panic as if he was trying to hide something. Yang Kai snorted coldly, stepped out, and stood directly above the heads of these people. Immediately he formed a seal with both hands and the space principles around him surged. The short and fat cultivator and the others suddenly turned pale. Everyone felt as if a mountain was pressing down on their heads, making it difficult for them to breathe, and the blood in their bodies stopped flowing, let alone resist. The Emperor Realm. It was not until this moment that they realized that Yang Kai was actually a powerhouse from the Emperor Realm. The short and fat cultivator trembled violently, recalling how he had boasted shamelessly in front of a powerhouse from the Emperor Realm just now. He suddenly felt a chill from head to toe, and his whole body trembled. No wonder Yang Kai had easily resolved their joint attack just now. It turned out that this guy had already advanced to the Emperor Realm. The gap between their strength was huge. How could they be a match for him? But, how could a newly advanced Emperor Realm master have such power? The short and fat cultivator did not even feel such a powerful aura from their master, Zhu Tianqing. Was he more powerful than Master? But how was this possible? Master had advanced to the Emperor Realm many years ago. His foundation was solid and his realm was stable. How could a newly advanced cultivator compare to him? What was going on? Just as the short and fat cultivator was confused, a layer of ripples suddenly appeared somewhere in the void, under the erosion and interference of Yang Kai's space principles. As the ripples spread, a pitch-black passageway suddenly appeared. The passageway was long and it was dark inside. It was unknown where it led to. In front of the passageway's entrance, there was an extremely simple beast skin imprinted in the void, exuding a strange power. It seemed that the existence of this beast skin was the only thing that could completely open the passageway. It was like a key. That's... Lu Wen's beautiful eyes lit up and she pointed to the animal skin. "It's the animal skin I found before." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows, knowing that he had found the right place. But he did not expect that there was a small world hidden here. And the way to open this small world was on the animal skin. "No, this animal skin is a little too big. It's twice the size of the one I found." Lu Wen suddenly frowned. Yang Kai said lightly, "Because you only found half of it and there is another half here. I think the reason why Elder Gao wants to find someone to work together to crack it is because she realized that the animal skin is incomplete, so she wants to find the owner of the other half of the animal skin." Speaking of this, his eyes flashed and he lowered his head to look at the short and fat cultivator below. "Let me ask you, does the other half of the animal skin belong to your master?" These words sounded extremely ordinary, but Yang Kai had actually used his spiritual energy to do so. He had witnessed the battle between the souls of the two great emperors in his knowledge sea. He had benefited a lot from that battle, so his ability to use his soul was much better than before. Coupled with his already powerful spiritual energy, it was a piece of cake for him to get some information from a Dao Source realm cultivator. Sure enough, although there was a flash of struggle on the short and fat cultivator's face, he still could not resist Yang Kai's spiritual energy and replied mechanically, "Yes." Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and said, "More than a month ago, a woman came here to cooperate with your master?" "Yes." "What is your master's plan?" "Master went to find Zhu Hong, the city lord of Earth City, who has a good relationship with him. They are going to work together to deal with that woman and swallow the treasures here." Hearing this, Yang Kai looked angry. Murderous intent surged out and a layer of frost covered his body. He snorted heavily. "What's the difference between cooperating with that woman and cooperating with Zhu Hong? Either way, the treasures here will be divided equally. Why would Zhu Tianqing do something unnecessary and even offend a master of the same level?" The short and fat cultivator replied honestly, "Master said, that woman is primordial Yin and has great strength. If I can subdue her and refine her primordial Yin, I can break through to the second-order Emperor realm. It is not easy to find a first-order woman in the Emperor realm, especially one with primordial Yin. Compared to the treasures here, Master is more interested in her. You've got guts. Yang Kai roared, his face twisted into a terrifying grimace. The short and fat cultivator spat out a mouthful of blood. Only then did he recover from the soul oppression and realize that he seemed to have just revealed some incredible information. He was horrified. The other cultivators also had ugly looks on their faces, but due to their inferior strength, they didn't even dare to make a sound. Sir, there's no time to lose, you should go in quickly. Zhang Rua, she urged worriedly, glancing at Zhu Tianqing's disciples with her beautiful eyes, her demonic intent surging as she said in a cold tone, "Leave this to me." Yang Kai nodded and snorted coldly, "Kill them all." Zhang Rua, she shouted, "Yes." Although there were as many as 5 cultivators in the short and fat cultivators group, there were only 2 from the third order Dao Source realm. Moreover, the short and fat cultivator's soul was injured by Yang Kai, so he could only exert half of his strength. Among the remaining 3, 2 were second-order Dao Source realm cultivators and 1 was from the first-order Dao Source realm. Based on Zhang Ruoxi's previous performance in the Purple Mountain City arena, it would take some effort to deal with them, but it shouldn't be a problem. What's more, Zhang Ruoxi had a defensive Emperor artifact like the Pink Cloud's Phoenix robe, so Yang Kai didn't need to worry about her safety. If the little girl wanted to become stronger, then a life-or-death battle would be the best cornerstone for that. Therefore Yang Kai didn't bother to bully the weak. Leaving these people to Zhang Ruoxi to deal with would be of great benefit to her growth. After giving the order, Yang Kai stepped forward and directly came to the front of the void. He stretched out his hand and pressed slightly on the animal skin. Under the surge of space force, his entire hand disappeared into the darkness, and then his whole body was gradually swallowed up. If it were someone else, they might not be able to enter this void corridor. However, this place had been opened and was previously hidden by some unknown method. In addition, Yang Kai was extremely proficient in the Tao of space, so entering it was as easy as entering his own courtyard. Chapter 25-22. In the dusky small world, the rich world energy was so dense that it was almost tangible, giving off a milky white halo that filled this small space. At a glance, it was as if the entire space was stuffed with cotton. This entire small world was only about a dozen kilometers in radius and did not seem to be naturally formed, but rather the result of someone's refinement. It was unknown which ancient master had created this small world. A variety of medicinal fragrances floated in the air, and they were extremely rich. On the ground of this small world, there were more than a dozen separated medicine gardens. Most of the medicine gardens were empty, and there were many traces of harvesting on the ground. It seemed that someone had harvested all the spirit medicines here. This small world was actually an ancient medicine garden. One could only imagine how many spirit flowers and rare herbs were planted in the original medicine gardens, and how much medicinal properties and ages had accumulated over the years. Only 2 medicine gardens were still intact, covering an area of 2 to 3 kilometers. In these 2 medicine gardens, spirit flowers and rare herbs that were as old as 10,000 years could be found everywhere, thriving and thriving. The rich medicinal fragrance in the air was emitted by the spirit medicines in these 2 medicine gardens. A faint golden light curtain appeared around these 2 medicine gardens, which seemed to be a layer of barrier. At this moment, Gao Shuiting's hair was messy, her pretty face was pale, and her aura was weak. She was sitting cross-legged somewhere in the medicine garden, closing her eyes to heal herself. The Emperor artifact, Blazing Yang Mirror, was suspended above her head, emitting a soft light that enveloped her. On her snow-white dress, crimson flowers of blood blossomed. On her waist and abdomen, there was a half-foot-long wound that dyed her clothes red. She seemed to have just fought a great battle, and her emperor chi was almost depleted. Even though she was healing herself, her tender body could not help but tremble slightly. Although there were countless precious spirit grasses and rare herbs here, they could not help her recover her combat strength in a short time. Outside the golden screen of light, Li Yunmu's eyes lit up. There was a person who held the flaming ocean of star aspect saber, and he was ceaselessly controlling saber lights to blast towards the barrier of light. Every single strike emanated a world-shaking bang, and it struck the barrier of light to the point it shook indeterminately as if it would be destroyed at any moment. However, no one knew where this light curtain came from. Although it looked extremely weak, it was actually extremely sturdy. Even after being attacked by the man with the long blade for so long, it still remained intact. This was a restriction light screen. It seemed to have become the biggest barrier separating this person from Gao Shueting. This person was so angry that he screamed like a madman. Suddenly, Gao Shueting slowly opened her eyes, looked indifferently at the person attacking the barrier, and said indifferently, "Zhu Tianqing. This consort has known you for several hundred years. But I didn't expect to see your true face until today. It was really surprising." Zhu Tianqing said angrily, "Bitch, don't be so noisy. Once I break this restriction spell, I'll take good care of you." A trace of disgust and anger flashed in Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes, and she shouted in a low voice, "Give up. This consort will not let you touch a single hair on my head even if I destroy my own meridians and self-destruct." Zhu Tianqing snorted coldly, "That depends on whether you have the chance. You are seriously injured now, and it is extremely difficult for you to even move your lower body. Once you break this restriction spell, the rest is not up to you." Gao Shueting said angrily, "This consort is an elder of the Azure Sun Temple. If I die here today, you will be hunted down by my Azure Sun Temple in the future." Zhu Tianqing smiled coldly and snorted, "Azure Sun Temple is indeed amazing. This king also admires the strength of Temple Master Wen Zishan, but so what? Your Azure Sun Temple is just a tyrant in the Southern Territory. This is the Eastern Territory. No matter how strong Temple Master Wen's divine technique is, how can he run wild in the Eastern Territory? A strong dragon cannot suppress a snake in its own territory. Haven't you heard of this saying, Elder Gao? This king is not afraid of being tracked down and retaliated by your Azure Sun Temple." Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes flashed with despair when she heard this. Now that she was seriously injured, she could only hide in this medicine garden. Fortunately, there was a barrier left by an ancient almighty here that she had successfully activated. However, she was not sure how long this barrier would last after so many years. Once Zhu Tianqing really broke the barrier, she would have absolutely no power to fight back. She secretly made up her mind that if the barrier was really broken, she would immediately self-destruct. Even if she died, she would not destroy her innocence. In her beautiful eyes, that cynical smile, that lazy tone, and that infuriating attitude could not help but appear. The fierceness in Gao Shueting's eyes was gradually replaced by a touch of gentleness. "What does it matter if I was raised by you? Since the age of 18 I am no longer a child. Hateful that even if I cultivate to the Emperor realm, I am still just a little girl in your eyes. I have never been treated like a woman. If there is an afterlife, I will never be raised by you. I will definitely grow up healthily, and then stand in front of you again as a woman. Brother Zhu, have you rested enough? If you have, why don't you come and help?" Zhu Tianqing could not help but feel a little anxious after attacking for a long time. He turned his head and said to another person sitting cross-legged not far away, recuperating and healing from the Emperor realm. This person was the city lord of Earth City, Zhu Hong. The cultivation of the three people here was almost the same. They were all first-order Emperor realm masters. If they really fought, their strength would be on par with each other. The reason why Gao Shueting was so seriously injured was not that she was weaker than Zhu Tianqing, but because Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong outnumbered her. A fight between cultivators of the same level was extremely dangerous. Gao Shueting was able to injure one of the opponents in a 1 versus 2 situation, which was a sign of her strength. At this moment, Zhu Hong's face was pale as well. A large seal engraved with countless ferocious beasts was placed beside him. His aura fluctuated unsteadily, and as he breathed in and out, the flesh on his body squirmed and wriggled. The wounds on his body were gradually healing. It was unknown what kind of strange art he was cultivating. Hearing Zhu Tianqing's call, Zhu Hong opened his eyes and frowned. "Brother Zhu, before coming here, you didn't tell me that we were going to deal with an elder of Azure Sun Temple." Zhu Tianqing smiled and said, "Why? Is Brother Zhu afraid? Azure Sun Temple is indeed as famous as my Brahma Holy Land, but it is a sect in the Southern Territory. Why is Brother Zhu afraid of them?" Zhu Hong said, "Indeed, Brother Zhu is not afraid. Brahma Holy Land is a big family and Azure Sun Temple is powerful, but after this, Brother Zhu only needs to hide in the Holy Land. Even if Azure Sun Temple gets the news, they can't do anything to you. But this Zhu is different. This Zhu is just a city lord. If Temple Master Wen Zishan really comes to the Eastern Territory, how can this Zhu compete with him? I'm afraid that I will be killed easily." The corner of Zhu Tianqing's mouth twitched as he said, "Brother Zhu, you're worrying too much. We've done this without anyone knowing. Even if Azure Sun Temple gets the news, they don't have any evidence. Brother Zhu, what are you afraid of?" Zhu Hong shook his head and said, "It's best to be careful. Brother Ju, you have a big backer behind you. I'm afraid you don't understand the difficulties of people like us who don't belong to any sect. Ju Tianqing sneered. At this point, Brother Zhu isn't thinking of backing out, is he? Zhu Hong pondered for a moment and said, not really. After all, I joined forces with you to injure Elder Gao. Even if I want to back out, I'm afraid I can't. Ju Tianqing said, since you understand, then what are you hesitating for? Zhu Hong said, Brother Ju told me that there was a great opportunity here and that the benefits would be split 50-50. This Zhu agreed without hesitation, but now it seems that the 50-50 split is not as good as it seems. Ju Tianqing was taken aback and said, how can that be? This is an ancient medicine garden with countless exotic flowers and grasses. After dealing with this slut, I'll split all the spirit medicines with you. Don't you trust this Jew's credibility? Zhu Hong grinned and said, the spirit medicines can be split 50-50, but what about the primordial yin qi? How can Brother Ju share it with me? Ju Tianqing's expression became strange when he heard this and he asked in a daze, how can we split it? The primordial yin qi was not like other things and could not be divided at all. Zhu Hong suddenly said, Brother Ju, you have been stuck at the peak of the First Order Emperor realm for many years. This Zhu heard that in order to improve your cultivation, you seem to have cultivated a dual cultivation secret art and collected the primordial yin qi of many women. Even your 2 legacy disciples were not spared. If you accept this Elder Gao today, won't Brother Ju break through the shackles and advance to the Second Order Emperor realm? Ju Tianqing couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed when Zhu Hong exposed his privacy, especially when Zhu Hong said that he didn't even spare his 2 personal disciples. This matter was extremely secretive and he did not know how Zhu Hong knew about it. I think I understand Brother Zhu's meaning. Ju Tianqing nodded and snorted a little unhappily. If Brother Zhu wants to make a condition, just say it. You and I have known each other for many years, so there's no need to beat around the bush. Zhu Hong raised his brow and chuckled, Brother Ju, please calm down. This Zhu is just telling the truth. If Brother Ju can really break through the shackles, this Zhu will naturally do his best. Cultivation in the Emperor realm is extremely difficult and breaking through is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. If Brother Ju can reach the Second Order Emperor realm, it will be a blessing from the heavens, not something that can be brought by taking some pills. Speak human. Ju Tianqing said impatiently. Zhu Hong looked embarrassed and said, this Zhu wants a 30-70 split of the spirit medicines here. You take 30 and I take 70. Ju Tianqing's face suddenly darkened and he said angrily, Brother Zhu, isn't your appetite a bit too big? The spirit herbs here were all at least 10,000 years old and were all emperor-grade spirit herbs. No one knew which ancient almighty had planted them, but many of them had long been lost to history. They were all treasures in the outside world, but you actually want 70% of them as soon as you open your mouth? How about you take 30% and Elder Gao will be yours, while I take 70%? Zhu Hong smiled and said, why would I want Elder Gao? Although she is a beautiful woman, she has thorns all over her body. This Zhu can't afford to enjoy her. Besides, I'm just negotiating with Brother Ju. Chapter 25-23. 40-60, absolutely no more, Ju Qingtian said coldly. Ju Tianqing said with a cold face, although this Ju will most likely break through to the Second Order Emperor realm after this matter is settled, Brother Zhu's breakthrough will be just around the corner if we obtain so many spirit grasses and medicines here. You definitely won't lose out in this distribution. Zhu Hong pondered for a moment before a flash of determination flashed across his eyes. He nodded and said, all right, we'll do as Brother Ju says. 40-60, Ju Tianqing definitely had a slight advantage, but he was an elder of Brahma Holy Land after all. If he could break through to the Second Order Emperor realm, his strength would definitely skyrocket. If Zhu Hong gave him face now, it would be easier to get along with him in the future. On the other side, Gao Shueting could not help but tremble with anger when she heard the 2 start to divide the benefits in front of her. But she did not even have the strength to protect herself now, so there was nothing she could do even if she was angry. 40-60? I'm afraid that's a little inappropriate. An abrupt voice suddenly rang out. Both Zhu Hong and Ju Tianqing trembled violently as they looked towards the source of the voice in horror. Zhu Hong, who was healing his injuries, stood up directly as the Emperor artifact 10,000 Beast seal beside him flashed slightly, exuding a dangerous aura. This place was a small world hidden in a crack in the void. If it were not for the 2 halves of the animal skin to activate the barrier, it would be impossible for anyone to come here. They could only come in because they had activated the barrier on the 2 halves of the animal skin. But now there was one more person here. Even though Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing were masters of the Emperor realm, they could not help but feel their scalps tingle at this moment. Did we run into a ghost? The two of them muttered in their hearts. On the other side, Gao Shueting, who had a look of despair on her face, suddenly trembled after hearing this voice. A strange brilliance bloomed in her gray eyes. She focused her vision and looked to the side. At some point, a young man had appeared a few dozen meters away from the three of them like a ghost with a smile on his face. If he had not taken the initiative to speak, none of the three would have noticed him. Who is it? Zhu Hong shouted. Zhu Tianqing also frowned as he scanned Yang Kai with his divine sense without concealing it. After discovering that he was just a first-order Emperor Realm Master, he was slightly relieved. No matter how this man came in and what his purpose was, as long as his cultivation was not higher than Zhu Tianqing was not too afraid. City Lord Zhu, Elder Zhu, Yang Kai smiled and cupped his hands at the two of them as if they were very familiar with each other. It's been a long time. Zhu Hong's expression was one of surprise as he stared at Yang Kai seriously. However, he discovered that this person's face was extremely unfamiliar. He had never seen him before. He couldn't help but ask in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "It's just a lowly name not worth mentioning." Zhu Hong was so angry that he felt dizzy, but he knew that the other party was unwilling to reveal his name. There was no point in continuing to ask. His expression changed and he growled, "How did you get in?" When Zhu Tianqing and Gao Shueting joined forces to enter this place, Zhu Tianqing had quietly left a secret door behind. It was this secret door that allowed him to enter this place, but how did Yang Kai come in? Did he also use that secret door? No, only Zhu Tianqing and I know how to break the secret door. No one else can know about it. Not to mention that Zhu Tianqing's legacy disciples are guarding outside. If this person had appeared here without a sound, then the people outside would most likely be in trouble. Thinking of this, Zhu Hong was shocked and glanced at Zhu Tianqing discreetly, only to find that he was indifferent, not at all worried about the safety of his disciples. "Friend, your divine technique is amazing. This king admires you for being able to find this place." Zhu Tianqing looked at Yang Kai indifferently. Although he was praising him, there was no admiration on his face. He got straight to the point and said, "Friend, you just said that a 40-60 split is a bit inappropriate. Do you have any good ideas?" Yang Kai said lazily, "I don't dare say I have a good idea, but I have a small suggestion." "I'd like to hear the details," Zhu Tianqing said with a sullen face. "I want everything here. You two can go back to where you came from. What do you think?" Yang Kai looked at the two with a smile. Presumptuous. Zhu Hong was furious. He thought this young man was here to get a share of the treasures. If that was the case, he could just pinch his nose and accept it. It wouldn't be too late to settle accounts with him later, but he didn't expect this guy's appetite to be so big. Then why did he work so hard to follow Zhu Tianqing here and even offend an elder of the Azure Sun Temple? He couldn't accept such a proposal no matter what. Both of them were first-order Emperor Realm Masters. If they really fought, who was afraid of who? What's more, he was in cahoots with Zhu Tianqing while Yang Kai was alone. Zhu Tianqing also looked angry and coldly snorted, "Little friend's tone is not small. Don't you think your table manners are too ugly?" Yang Kai's face also darkened and his eyes turned cold. "Old thing, watch your words. If you anger this young master, don't blame this young master for not respecting the old and loving the young." Good. Zhu Tianqing was so angry that he laughed. "Then this king would like to see how much weight you have to boast so shamelessly. Stop putting on an act here." Yang Kai laughed as he looked at the other party contemptuously and said, "Elder Zhu, not to mention you don't know this young master. Your disciples exposed this young master's identity as soon as we met. Even your disciples know me, yet you, as an elder of Brahma Holy Land, are pretending to be meeting me for the first time? Iske, you're clearly harboring unfathomable intentions." "Brother Zhu, you know this boy?" Zhu Hong looked at Zhu Tianqing in surprise. Being exposed by Yang Kai, Zhu Tianqing's face couldn't help but turn ugly as he quickly said, "Yes, this boy's name is Yang Kai. He killed Jianghu and Zhang Xian in the Shattered Star Sea. His enmity with my Brahma Holy Land is absolutely irreconcilable." The two holy sons, Jianghu and Zhang Xian, died at his hands? Zhu Hong was shocked. He had also received the news that the Shattered Star Sea was inexplicably closed, and he also knew that Brahma Holy Land had suffered a heavy loss this time. The death of the two holy sons was a great blow to Brahma Holy Land's Yuan Qi. These two holy sons were cultivation geniuses that only appeared once in 100 years and were highly valued by many elders of Brahma Holy Land. They were the future of Brahma Holy Land. However, something happened in the Shattered Star Sea that caused them to fail to return safely. It wasn't until now that Zhu Hong knew that the two holy sons had died at the hands of this young man named Yang Kai. But soon Zhu Hong realized one thing and asked with a strange expression, "Since this boy has entered the Shattered Star Sea before, doesn't that mean he has just advanced to the Emperor realm?" "Yes, that should be the case," Zhu Tianqing nodded lightly. Zhu Hong laughed and looked at Yang Kai mockingly. "Boy, your courage is admirable. You have just advanced to the Emperor realm and yet you dare to yell in front of this city lord and elder Jew. Unfortunately, your IQ is limited. Having just advanced, one should enter secluded retreat to consolidate one's cultivation. If one's cultivation is unstable, it is very likely that one will fall from the Emperor realm." Yet this boy not only didn't enter secluded retreat, he even ran around. Zhu Hong didn't know what his elders had taught him. In an instant, in Zhu Hong's eyes, Yang Kai had become an arrogant and ignorant junior. His previous surprise was swept away and he didn't put Yang Kai in his eyes at all. Yang Kai turned a deaf ear to Zhu Hong's words and looked at Zhu Tianqing. "Elder Zhu, there is something I want to clarify with you." "What is it?" Zhu Tianqing asked with a cold face. Yang Kai said with a smile, "You said that Zhang Hao died at my hands and I have no objection. I did kill him, but Zhang Xian's death has nothing to do with me. Moreover, before Zhang Xian died, he begged me to kill Zhang Hao to avenge him. Alas, I don't know what kind of conflict there was between these two holy sons that made them want to fight each other to the death. I'm a very soft-hearted person, so of course I have to satisfy a dying man's wish, so I killed Zhang Hao for Zhang Xian so that he could die in peace." "Bullshit." Zhu Tianqing was furious. Zhang Hao and Zhang Xian were very close. Although they were not biological brothers, they were closer than real brothers. How could Zhang Xian let you kill Zhang Hao? Yang Kai snorted coldly. "Believe it or not, it's up to you." Zhu Tianqing took a deep breath to calm the anger in his heart and said coldly, "Since you have entered this place, then what about those good-for-nothing disciples of this king outside?" "I don't know, I'm afraid they're all dead," Yang Kai grinned. He was very confident in Zhang Ruoxi. Even if she couldn't beat him with the help of the Pink Cloud's phoenix robe, Zhang Ruoxi wouldn't be injured, but if the terrifying power hidden in her bloodline was forced out, then Zhu Tianqing's disciples would suffer. In short, Zhu Tianqing's disciples were most likely doomed. Good. 2 holy sons died at your hands and so did several of this king's disciples. Since you've delivered yourself to me today, then don't even think about leaving this place." Zhu Tianqing was furious, and murderous intent surged from his body. As he spoke, he circulated his emperor qi, and a strong emperor intent spread out. The broken world principles in this small world buzzed, and the burning sea of stars saber in his hand trembled slightly, releasing a dazzling saber light. Zhu Hong was even more direct. Seeing that Yang Kai and Zhu Tianqing were at odds, he knew that this battle was inevitable. Relying on his alliance with Zhu Tianqing, he didn't put Yang Kai in his eyes at all. What's more, Yang Kai looked so young and he had just advanced to the Emperor realm, so what was there to be afraid of? During this period of time, many rising stars had obtained opportunities in the Shattered Star Sea, breaking through to the Emperor realm and reaching the Emperor realm. But how could these newcomers from the Emperor realm be compared with a veteran master like himself? It would be more likely for them to go back and cultivate for another 30 or 50 years. As Zhu Hong's Emperor Qi surged, roars came from the 10,000 Beast Seal, filling the small world. Then, streams of light rushed out of the 10,000 Beast Seal, turning into one strange monster beast after another in mid-air. The auras of these monster beasts were strong, and they were at least at the early stage of the 11th order. With the infusion of Emperor Qi, the monster beast shot out of the 10,000 Beast Seal in a continuous stream, rumbling towards Yang Kai. Chapter 25-24. The 10,000 Beast Seal was a rare treasure that could seal the soul of a monster beast and release it to fight against an enemy. The sealed monster beast soul retained most of the divine technique of the monster beast when it was alive. The more souls sealed, the stronger the power of the 10,000 Beast Seal would be. Since Zhu Hong was promoted to the Emperor realm, he had been hunting monster beasts all over the Eastern Territory. Now, the number of monster beast souls sealed in the 10,000 Beast Seal numbered at least 1,000. Most of them were 11th order, and there were also more than a dozen powerful 12th order monster beast souls. This was not the strongest form of the 10,000 Beast Seal. The The strongest form of the 10,000 Beast Seal could seal 10,000 monster beast souls. If he went all out, an ordinary First Order Emperor Realm Master was no match for him. It was also by relying on the 10,000 Beast Seal that Zhu Hong could unify Earth City and become the high and mighty city lord. But after all, he was injured first. Although he had adjusted his breathing for a while, he had not recovered to his peak, so he could not fully display the power of the 10,000 Beast Seal. The monster beast souls he released were all 11th Order. But this was enough. As long as he could delay Yang Kai's actions a little and create a flaw, he believed that Zhu Tianqing would teach this brat the consequences of offending a master. He had done this when he joined forces with Zhu Tianqing to deal with Gao Shueting, so he was familiar with it. Hong Long Long. The endless monster beast army bared their teeth and roared at Yang Kai. There were all kinds of monster beasts flying in the sky and running on the ground, and all of a sudden, they gathered into a terrifying army of monster beasts. Yang Kai's eyes lit up when he saw this. He immediately knew that the 10,000 Beast Seal should be an incredible artifact. However, although the army of monster beasts was aggressive, he was not afraid. His hand shook. The myriad sword was leisurely unsheathed, and as it swung, it slashed out like a waterfall, heading straight for the army of monster beasts. Those are the souls of monster beast. They don't have physical bodies, so normal attacks won't have any effect on them. Be careful of sneak attacks. Gao Shueting's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Although she was hiding in the restriction to recuperate, it was inconvenient for her to move. But that didn't stop her from watching from the perspective of a spectator. When Yang Kai suddenly appeared, she was really shocked and anxious. He was surprised that he could meet Yang Kai in this place, and anxious that Yang Kai would come to this damned place. Regardless of his aptitude, he was still young after all. Even if he had great abilities, he was no match for Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong. She had suffered a great loss at the hands of these two people and naturally knew how powerful they were. If even she was no match for them, how could Yang Kai resist? Perhaps in the future. Yang Kai's achievements would surpass the two of them, but not now. Her first thought was to tell Yang Kai to run away. But on second thought, the reason why Yang Kai appeared here was probably because of her. She didn't know how he got the news that she was trapped here. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence in the world? At this moment he was already here. He probably wouldn't run away even if he wanted to. After realizing that Yang Kai was already an Emperor Realm Venerable, Gao Shueting was deeply shocked. She remembered that when she first met Yang Kai, he was just in the First Order Dao Source realm. He came to the Azure Sun Temple with Qin Chaiyang with the Secular World Token to ask for a place to enter the Four Seasons realm. In just a few years, he had already reached the Emperor realm, which was the same as her cultivation. This kind of cultivation speed might not be unmatched in the future, but it was unprecedented in the past. Her aptitude was also extremely good. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to spy on the mysteries of the Emperor realm. But how long did it take her to cultivate from the First Order Dao Source realm to the Emperor realm? 50 years? 100 years? It had been so long that she had forgotten. Even her own master, the temple master Wen Zishan, could not compare with him. Those geniuses in the sect were like fireflies competing with the bright moon in front of Yang Kai's cultivation speed. What kind of opportunity did he get in the Shattered Star Sea? How could he grow to such a level? While Gao Shueting was shouting, Zhu Tianqing had already flown above Yang Kai's head while his attention was attracted by the 10,000 Beast Seal. With a swing of his blade, the burning sea of stars blade suddenly burst into a sky full of stars and directly enveloped Yang Kai. All of a sudden, Yang Kai felt as if he was standing in the middle of a vast starry sky, feeling extremely small and insignificant. This moment of spiritual energy interference made Yang Kai's movements slightly sluggish. By the time he reacted, the violent blade had already reached his chest. Yang Kai's eyes shrank slightly, and a trace of panic and horror flashed across his bright eyes as he was directly hit by the blade. In the next moment, the monster beast army rushed over and crushed the place where Yang Kai was standing. At a rate visible to the naked eye, Yang Kai was directly torn to pieces by the violent momentum. Ah! Gao Shueting exclaimed, her pretty face suddenly turning pale. Although she felt that with Yang Kai's current strength, it was impossible for him to be Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong's opponent, she did not expect him to die just like that. Her tender body trembled as she could not accept this reality. A strong sense of self-blame and anger surged up in her heart, causing her beautiful eyes to instantly turn red. Yang Kai came here to find her, but he died here because of her. How could Gao Shueting not feel guilty? With the cultivation speed and heaven-defying aptitude that Yang Kai had shown before, as long as he was given a little more time, he would definitely be able to blossom into a dazzling light in the star boundary, becoming a rising star of the star boundary and shaking the world. But now all of this was gone. A young man with a bright future died here because of her. He did not even get to experience the power of the Emperor realm. Humph, overconfident. Zhu Tianqing withdrew his blade, stood in the void and sneered. What? All bark and no bite. This city lord thought this boy was very powerful, but it turns out that he's just an embroidered pillow. Zhu Hong also laughed. If he had known that this boy was so weak, he would not have needed to take action at all. Zhu Tianqing alone could easily crush him, wasting the strength he had painstakingly recovered. Young people nowadays are too arrogant. They are blindly arrogant after making a little achievement, but they don't know that there is always someone better than them in this world. Brother Zhu is right. Such a person should be taught a lesson. Zhu Hong nodded in agreement. You two are right. Why don't you tell this young master how high the sky is and how deep the earth is? Yang Kai's voice suddenly rang out again, and this time, it came directly from behind Zhu Hong. Brother Zhu, watch out. Zhu Tianqing's face changed drastically as he hurriedly exclaimed, the corners of his eyes almost tearing. He saw that Yang Kai, who should have been smashed to pieces under his and Zhu Hong's joint attack, was standing behind Zhu Hong unscathed. The broadsword in his hand, which was exuding the fluctuations of an emperor artifact, was emitting an extremely dangerous aura as it stabbed toward Zhu Hong's back. Zhu Hong did not notice it at all. Zhu Hong was scared out of his wits. Even with his powerful cultivation in the Emperor realm, he did not even notice how Yang Kai appeared behind him. He looked in disbelief at the place where Yang Kai had been, only to find that the torn Yang Kai was just an afterimage. Oh no! Zhu Hong's heart sank. He had no time to escape or turn around. As he shouted, he pushed his Emperor Qi and a layer of dazzling light appeared around his body. The light on his back was especially dazzling. It was obvious that he had pushed his Emperor Qi to the limit. The next moment, a violent impact came. Zhu Hong only felt his 5 viscera and 6 bowels trembling, which made him extremely uncomfortable. An indestructible aura directly blasted a hole in his Emperor Qi and hit his back. With a cry, Zhu Hong spat out a mouthful of blood. Borrowing the force of the attack, his figure flickered and he quickly rushed forward, putting some distance between him and Yang Kai. Artifact armor? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and stared at the place where he had attacked Zhu Hong. From the torn clothes he saw a light blue scale armor. The grade of this artifact armor was not low. Coupled with Zhu Hong's powerful cultivation, Yang Kai's sneak attack had failed to achieve the desired effect. Junior, how dare you attack this city lord? Zhu Hong turned around and roared at Yang Kai, his face pale. If he hadn't been wearing an artifact armor, even if he hadn't died, he would have been seriously injured. What's wrong with this little brat? He has only just broken through to the Emperor realm, so how can he be so strong? That secret technique of his had actually deceived both me and Zhu Tianqing. Brother Zhu, you stay on the side. This king will teach him a lesson. Zhu Tianqing saw that Zhu Hong was injured again and his aura was a little unstable, so he did not force him to join forces with him. Instead, he just let him stay on the side. As he shouted, the burning sea of stars saber rolled up layers of blade chi and attacked Yang Kai like a wave. Zhu Hong nodded heavily, the anger in his heart erupting like a volcano. He silently urged the power of the 10,000 beast seal and controlled the monster beast soul to rush towards Yang Kai again. Being attacked by a newly promoted Emperor Realm Master was simply a great humiliation. How could he be a man if he did not avenge this? The two great emperors joined forces and their power was monstrous, like the wrath of gods. Gao Shueting, who had just been relieved, became nervous again. She was pleasantly surprised when Yang Kai suddenly came back to life. She knew that she, like Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong, had underestimated Yang Kai. But now he was going to fight two people at once. How could he compete? Gao Shueting gritted her teeth, flipped her hand and took out a jade bottle from her space ring. She opened the bottle cap and poured out a dark red spirit pill that reeked of blood. She hesitated for a moment, then raised her hand and was about to put the spirit pill into her mouth. Elder Gao, don't. At this moment, Yang Kai's anxious cry rang out. Gao Shueting was taken aback and looked up at Yang Kai, her beautiful eyes full of suspicion. You're already injured. If you take this mad blood pill and forcefully stimulate your potential, I'm afraid it will damage your foundation. Don't take it. Moreover, the quality of this mad blood pill is so low that there will be great hidden dangers after taking it. Which bastard alchemist refined this for you? It's simply irresponsible. As far as the eye could see, Yang Kai seemed to be in a difficult situation under the joint forces of the two great emperors, but his clear voice still reached Gao Shueting's ears, surprising her. She did not know how he could still spare some attention to care about her. Chapter 25-25. The Mad Blood Pill was a Dao Source grade high-rank spirit pill. It wasn't difficult to refine it, but it was difficult to find the materials. The materials needed to refine this kind of spirit pill were all priceless emperor-grade spirit herbs. Gao Shueting had collected enough materials by chance and was able to ask someone to refine one for her. She carried it with her in case of an accident. Once she took this spirit pill, her potential would be fully stimulated, and her first-order Emperor Realm cultivation might be able to exert the strength of a second-order Emperor Realm master. This was her last trump card. When she was attacked by Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing together and was in a desperate situation, she endured and did not take it. But now, seeing that Yang Kai was in danger, she couldn't hold back anymore. But as soon as she took out the spirit pill, she was stopped by Yang Kai. A wisp of a bitter smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. How could she not know that consuming this mad blood pill would bring great harm to her? Perhaps it would cause her foundation to become unstable, perhaps it would cause her cultivation to drop, or even cause her meridians to break and her dantian to explode. But at this moment she had no other hope except for the mad blood pill. Little brat, you still have the mood to care about others? Take care of yourself first. Zhu Tianqing roared as the burning sea of star saber in his hand slashed out a series of saber waves, as if he wanted to cleave a star field in this place. He attacked mercilessly, forcing Yang Kai to dodge without being able to fight back. Although the situation was in his favor, Zhu Tianqing had a very strange feeling for some reason. It made him feel like something bad could happen at any time. Elder Gao, disciple is fine. Don't take the mad blood pill. Yang Kai's erratic voice came from all directions. Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes lit up. Seemingly influenced by Yang Kai's confident words, she nodded slightly and said, "Okay, I won't take it. Be careful and don't try to be brave. If you can't beat them, retreat to my side immediately." Yang Kai laughed and said, "Disciple is no longer the same as before. Two trivial first-order Emperor Realm Masters are nothing in my eyes. Junior, you are too arrogant. Today this king will teach you how to behave." Zhu Tianqing flew into a rage, his aura rising again. Zhu Hong's face was also livid. Although he did not say a word, he worked harder to stimulate the power of the 10,000 Beast Seal. All of a sudden Yang Kai's figure came to a halt and suddenly froze at a certain spot. A pair of bone-chilling eyes stared at Zhu Tianqing. Zhu Tianqing could not help but shudder under Yang Kai's gaze. He did not know why, but he could not help but want to run away immediately. Suppressing the palpitations in his heart, Zhu Tianqing pushed his saber wave towards Yang Kai. Thousands of rays of light blossomed, and the sky shattered. Yang Kai said coldly, "I'm afraid you are not qualified to teach this young master how to behave." As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his fingers, and a series of long and narrow moon blades flew out leisurely. There were dozens of these moon blades, and they crisscrossed in midair, directly forming a large net, as if to envelop the heaven and earth, and moving forward in a net. Li Wuyi had given him a stone that contained the mysteries of space. During that 1 month, Yang Kai had absorbed all the mysteries of the Space Force contained in this stone like a leech. Now, his attainments in the Tao of Space had taken a step forward and he was much more proficient in using Space Force than before. Asterisk chi 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 chi. Asterisk the dark moon blades flew out like a shroud of darkness that could devour all things, annihilating the thousands of lights in an instant. Even Zhu Hong's monster beast souls were cut into pieces. He lost dozens of them all at once. What kind of divine technique is this? Zhu Tianqing turned pale with fright. He could clearly feel the deadly threat from the crescent blade net. He knew that if he was hit by this kind of divine ability, he would either die or be seriously injured. How could he dare to face Ying Qifeng head-on? He could not wait to run as far away as possible. In a hurry, he condensed another blade light in an attempt to resist. But he was horrified to find that no matter how many blade lights he condensed, he could not stop the dark net in the slightest. In the blink of an eye, the dark net was in front of him. Zhu Tianqing's face turned pale and he hurriedly tried to escape. At this moment, a kind of world principle that seemed to freeze the world suddenly descended, making him feel like there were mountains in all directions firmly squeezing him in place. Space principle. Zhu Tianqing's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he exclaimed. He finally remembered some information revealed by Yin Lusheng from the Netherworld sect. Yin Luxing once said that this boy named Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of Space. But Zhu Tianqing did not take it seriously. The Tao of Space was one of the most difficult forces to cultivate in the world. How could anyone be proficient in it? In the entire star boundary, countless people wanted to achieve success in the Tao of Space, but how many were successful? Only Li Wu Yi from Spirit Beast Island had succeeded. Yang Kai was just a junior, so even if he had really mastered the Tao of Space, he would not be able to use it against the enemy. But at this moment, Zhu Tianqing finally understood that Yang Kai's attainments in the Tao of Space were simply beyond imagination. Even if he was not as good as Li Wu Yi, he was not far behind. What was there to fight? As everyone knew, a cultivator who was proficient in the Tao of Space was the most difficult to kill because even if they could not win, they could still escape easily. No wonder he could enter this miniature world. As a cultivator from the Emperor realm who was proficient in the Tao of Space, entering a miniature world that had just been opened was as simple as breathing. All kinds of distracting thoughts flashed through Zhu Tianqing's mind like a bolt of lightning. His hands and feet were cold all over. At this critical moment, he bit the tip of his tongue, spat out a mouthful of blood essence, and his aura soared. At this critical moment of life and death, he used an extremely powerful secret technique. It was this secret technique that allowed him to move his body. Asterisk chi 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 chi. Asterisk there was a strange noise, accompanied by Zhu Tianqing's miserable scream, and blood suddenly gushed out like a fountain. Zhu Hong was shocked. Looking around, he was stunned. He saw that one of Zhu Tianqing's arms had been cut off at the shoulder. The incision was neat and clean, as if it had been carved by a knife. From the cut, he could even see Zhu Tianqing's heart beating violently. Asterisk hiss. Asterisk Zhu Hong sucked in a breath of cold air. He couldn't believe his eyes. What the hell was going on? He clearly saw that Yang Kai was suppressed by Zhu Tianqing, so how could Zhu Tianqing be seriously injured in the blink of an eye? He couldn't help feeling a little dizzy. The monster beast souls that flew out of the 10,000 beast seal were also disturbed and began to scurry around like headless flies. Yang Kai will meet again someday. This king will remember you. One day, this king will tear you to pieces to avenge my severed arm. Zhu Tianqing roared with a ferocious face, then turned around and flew toward the entrance. He wanted to escape from here. But it had to be said that this was a wise choice. Now that his arm had been cut off by Yang Kai and he was seriously injured, his strength had been somewhat affected. It would be extremely unfavorable for him to continue fighting. Moreover, Yang Kai was a cultivator who was proficient in the Tao of Space, so there was no chance for him to kill him. Naturally, he could only escape first. Return to the Holy Land first and gather all the masters in the Holy Land. As long as Yang Kai is still in the Eastern Territory, even if the entire Eastern Territory is turned upside down, we must find him, set up a barrier and tear him to pieces. Zhu Tianqing secretly swore in his heart, his whole body erupting like a volcano, raging with anger. Looking at his fleeing back, Yang Kai showed a strange look on his face, but instead of chasing after him, he stood in place and looked at him playfully. Zhu Hong was stunned for a moment, but he also knew that things were not going well. He quickly put away the 10,000 beast seal and followed after Zhu Tianqing. He was already seriously injured, and now that Zhu Tianqing had run away, wouldn't he be courting death if he stayed here? He cursed in his heart. His hundreds of years of friendship with Zhu Tianqing had gone to waste. This guy didn't even say goodbye to him when he was running away. That was too unkind of him. These days, the only person you can trust when you go out is yourself. The two, one in front and one behind, were extremely fast. This pocket world was not big, so they arrived at the entrance in the blink of an eye. Zhu Tianqing had one of his arms cut off, but he could only endure the excruciating pain. He made a hand seal with one hand and constantly struck out seals toward the entrance. He had already left a secret door before coming in, so that it would be convenient for Zhu Hong to follow him in and for him to leave this pocket world later. But now, even after striking out seals one after another, the entrance did not open. Zhu Tianqing's face changed and suddenly turned pale. He seemed to have realized something and could not help swallowing his saliva. Zhu Hong did not understand and urged vigorously, "Brother Zhu, hurry up and open the entrance. What are you waiting for?" Zhu Tianqing said sadly, "It can't be opened." "How can that be?" Zhu Hong was shocked, wishing he could slap Zhu Tianqing to death. It was intolerable for him to drop the ball at such a critical moment. Yang Kai suddenly appeared behind the two, looking at them with a smile, and said indifferently, "After this young master came in, I completely sealed the entrance. Without this young master's unique technique, no one can open this place again." "What?" Zhu Hong was horrified. How do you have such a divine technique? How could an ordinary person be able to seal the entrance to a pocket world just like that? Zhu Tianqing's face was ugly, and his heart kept sinking as if it had fallen into an abyss. He said bitterly, "Brother Zhu, this kid is proficient in the law of space." Zhu Hong was dumbfounded as if he had been struck by lightning. Yang Kai snorted coldly, "We'll meet again? Elder Zhu, this young master likes to finish things today. Just now you said you would teach me how to behave. Come on, hurry up and teach me. This young master is waiting." Zhu Tianqing's imposing manner fell to the bottom. Being ridiculed by Yang Kai, his mouth was full of bitterness, as if he had eaten a basket of Chinese gold thread. He could not refute a single word. His eyes dimmed and he said dejectedly, "Little brother, today's matter is our fault, but it's not to the point of no return. Why don't we just disperse like this?" Yang Kai said with a cold face, "This young master doesn't know how to behave. Are you going to teach me or not?" Zhu Tianqing said angrily, "Why do you have to be so aggressive? If you won't teach me, I will." Chapter 25-26. Little brat, don't go too far. Don't go too far. Zhu Tianqing gritted his teeth, glaring at Yang Kai ferociously. Seeing this, Zhu Hong also chimed in, "Yes, even if you are proficient in the Tao of space, you are only one person. Brother Zhu and I may be able to defeat you. Even if we can't defeat you, can't we self-destruct?" Yang Kai curled his lips, "You speak as if you have a chance to self-destruct." While speaking, his expression turned solemn as he quickly formed a series of seals with both hands. Mysterious seals suddenly condensed, and a very strange aura suddenly filled the air. "Boy, what are you doing?" Zhu Tianqing turned pale with fright, instinctively feeling that danger was about to befall him. Yang Kai said coldly, "What am I doing? Of course I'm preparing to release a big move to kill you all. To tell you the truth, once this young master uses this move, you won't be able to fight back and are destined to be slaughtered by me. If you really want to self-destruct, do it as soon as possible. You won't have the chance to do so later." This. Both Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong gasped and staggered back. Yang Kai's words were serious, but his face was full of murderous intent. They were very afraid. However, who would do something like self-detonation unless they had no other choice? Most of the time, it was just a verbal threat to serve as a deterrent. They never thought that this boy would be so indifferent and even talk nonsense about what kind of big move he was going to release. However, the seals he was forming were indeed mysterious and unparalleled. Even with Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing's eyesight, they could not see through them, but they were certain that this move was powerful. "Brother Zhu, let's fight." Zhu Tianqing gritted his teeth. There was a look of determination on his face. "Okay." Zhu Hong also knew that there was no way out at this moment. Yang Kai was so aggressive that it seemed like he wanted to kill them all. If he and Zhu Tianqing continued to be timid, they would definitely not be Yang Kai's opponent. Only by fighting to the death could they have a chance of winning. While speaking, both of them fiercely circulated their emperor qi, their auras sizzling. The wound on Zhu Tianqing's shoulder was bleeding profusely due to the surge of power. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and no one knew how many liters of blood he had spurted out. Suddenly the two's aura reached its peak. Countless roars of exotic beasts came from the 10,000 beast seal, while the blazing ocean of stars blade buzzed incessantly. Yang Kai's hand suddenly. Slowly, he slapped his hand down with a solemn expression. "The flowing time great emperor is like a shuttle. The grass and trees wither and flourish like a dream." Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Rumble. The time great emperor S of the seal was. It completely enveloped Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong. Both of the two. Time seemed to fluctuate in their eyes, and the scene of reincarnation flashed past. In that instant they seemed to have spent countless years. Their peak aura gradually fell with the passing of the flowing time great emperor. Their skin rapidly aged, their vitality gradually withered, and even their hair turned white. In just a moment the two turned from peak to old men, their eyes glazed over as if they could die at any time. The flowing time great emperor was the divine technique of the great emperors. How could the severely injured Zhu Tianqing and Zhu Hong resist when it involved the principle of time? When Yang Kai was still in the third-order Tao Source realm, he used this technique to deal with a wisp of a third-order Emperor Realm Master's soul descent technique. Now that he was an Emperor Realm Master, his strength was even stronger than before. After one move, the two completely lost their fighting strength. Get your ass in here. Yang Kai snorted coldly, a strange light flashing in his eyes. With a sweep of his divine sense, he took the two who had lost their ability to resist into the small sealed world. In the small sealed world, the embodiment had been waiting impatiently. As soon as he saw Yang Kai throw the two in, he pushed his power and covered the two with one hand, yelling fiercely, "Heaven-devouring great emperor technique." What awaited Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing was nothing more than being sucked dry. The stagnant time flowed again, and peace was restored in the small sealed world. Inside the medicine garden's barrier, Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes were full of surprise, unable to recover for a long time. The flowing time Great Emperor's seal had also affected her to a certain extent, causing a moment of confusion in her mind. By the time she recovered, Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing had disappeared. He only saw Kai Yang turn around and fly towards him. Gao Shueting was dumbfounded and subconsciously opened the medicine garden's barrier. It was not complicated to control this barrier, otherwise she would not have been able to hide here in the first place. "Elder Gao, how are your injuries?" Yang Kai came to her side and asked hurriedly. Gao Shueting looked up at him with a slightly complicated look on her pretty face, as if she was trying to get to know him again. A few years ago there was a huge gap in strength between her and this young man, but now, it seemed that she really needed to look up to him. "Elder Gao." Seeing that Gao Shueting did not say a word, Yang Kai could not help but call out again. Gao Shueting retracted her gaze and coughed lightly, "Although it's not light, it's not a big deal. I'll be fine after resting for a while." "What about those two? Were they beaten to a pulp by you?" "But even if they were beaten to a pulp, there should be some traces left. It was as if those two had disappeared for no reason." "They're dead," Yang Kai grinned. "Elder Gao, don't worry about them. They're just two pieces of trash." Gao Shueting nodded with relief and sighed, "You've grown a lot, more than Master expected." Yang Kai scratched his head and said, "It's all thanks to the guidance and love of the various seniors that I have today." Gao Shueting said lightly, "It's your own hard work. It has little to do with others." As she spoke, she coughed a few more times. Yang Kai hurriedly said, "Elder Gao, it's more important for you to heal your injuries. I'll stay here to protect you." "Okay." Gao Shueting did not say anything more. She immediately closed her eyes and adjusted her breath with all her strength. When Yang Kai was fighting with Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing, if she had a trace of power that she could use, she would not have just sat here and watched. It was obvious that her injuries were very serious. Now that the disaster had been eliminated, she naturally could not waste any more time. Gao Shueting's breathing soon stabilized. Only then did Yang Kai have the time to look around. This small world had been completely sealed by him. He did not open it. No one could come in, so Yang Kai did not need to worry about Gao Shueting at all. But this ancient medicine garden was able to arouse his great interest. As far as the eye could see, there were 2 herb gardens here. Each herb garden had at least 300 stalks of spirit herbs planted in it. These spirit herbs were all at least 10,000 years old, emperor-grade spirit herbs. Yang Kai was so excited that he could not control his emotions. Wow, the rainbow aurora Ganoderma. This is the main material for refining the Emperor Transformation Pill. It even gave birth to a small rainbow Ganoderma. This is at least 50,000 years old. Heavenly mysterious thunder flower. The stamen is golden. This. How can the Alcade Bodhi fruit be the size of a fist? How did it grow? Grand Essence Dragon Saliva Grass, this thing is not extinct. 9 Song Jade Flower. In Yang Kai's eyes, the spirit herbs were like beauties who took off their clothes and swayed their bodies, showing their best sides. It made him happy and excited. His eyes were shining with green light. As an alchemist, this was the happiest thing. Fields of mature spirit herbs were placed in front of him for him to pick and collect. This feeling was not something an alchemist could understand. He kept shuttling back and forth in this herb garden, dancing with joy. If he was not afraid of disturbing Gao Shueting's healing, he would have laughed wildly. There were so many emperor-grade spirit herbs here, but they only occupied 2 herb gardens. There were more than a dozen herb gardens here, but the others must have been collected by Gao Shueting and the others. In other words, most of the spirit herbs were in Gao Shueting, Zhu Tianqing, or Zhu Hong's space rings. What he saw was only a very small portion. Many of the spirit herbs he saw were rumored to be extinct, but they were still blooming with vitality here. Suddenly, Kai Yang's expression changed as he stared at a fruit tree that was about half the height of a person. This fruit tree was shining brightly, as if it was carved from the most exquisite jade. It was beautiful and crystal clear. On the fruit tree, there were 3 white stamens and a fist-sized fruit. The shape of this fruit was extremely peculiar. It was like a small person that had been shrunk countless times. At a glance, all 4 limbs, a body, and a head were complete. Not only that, there were even clear facial features on the head. Yang Kai's eyes suddenly became extremely fiery, and a storm was set off in his heart. He exclaimed, "Flesh incarnation fruit." There was actually a flesh incarnation fruit here. Yang Kai rubbed his eyes hard to make sure that he was not mistaken. This was definitely a flesh incarnation fruit, exactly the same as the information recorded in the jade slip left by Gong Sun Mu, the 3rd disciple of the wondrous pill great emperors. The flesh incarnation fruit was the main material for refining the flesh incarnation pill. The flesh incarnation pill, on the other hand, was a heaven-defying spirit pill that could reconstruct the body. If a cultivator was killed, but his soul was not destroyed, he could use the flesh incarnation pill to reconstruct his body and live again. This effect was not even possessed by the immortal tree. Although the immortal tree could regrow flesh and bones, revive the dead, and even make people immortal, it could not reconstruct the body of a soul. This showed the heaven-defying effect of the flesh incarnation fruit. This object, like the soul-warming lotus and the immortal tree, only existed in ancient records. No one had ever seen one with their own eyes. Yang Kai never thought that he would be lucky enough to see the flesh incarnation fruit in this ancient medicine garden. Having the flesh incarnation fruit meant that he could refine the flesh incarnation pill, and having the flesh incarnation pill meant that he could fulfill his promise to Tianyan. In the Divine Ascension Mirror, Senior Tianyan, whose strength was comparable to the great emperor's, had been a soul avatar ever since he was born. He had never had his own physical body. When Yang Kai was training in the Divine Ascension Mirror, he told Tianyan that one day he would find a flesh incarnation pill for him and refine a flesh incarnation fruit so that he could experience what it was like to have a physical body. He would be able to break free from the shackles of the Divine Ascension Mirror and see the outside world. Tianyan seemed to be very interested in this matter, but how could the flesh incarnation fruit be so easy to find? And now, one of them had appeared in Yang Kai's vision. Chapter 25-27. Yang Kai's expression turned solemn as he wrapped his hands with Emperor Qi and carefully grabbed the flesh incarnation fruit. After a short while, he gently plucked it and the flesh incarnation fruit immediately fell into his palm. Yang Kai hurriedly threw it into the jade box he had prepared beforehand and set up several barriers before putting it into his space ring. Phew! Yang Kai breathed a sigh of relief. With this flesh incarnation fruit, he had great hope of refining the flesh incarnation pill, but before that he had to improve his alchemy skills first. Although he was now an emperor-grade alchemist, he had not refined many emperor-grade spirit medicines. Refining the flesh incarnation fruit in a hurry was not likely to succeed. In this world there might only be one flesh incarnation fruit. If the refining failed and the raw materials were destroyed, Yang Kai would definitely be traumatized and it might even affect his future alchemy skills. Fortunately, there were so many emperor-grade spirit medicines here that he could choose some relatively low-value spirit medicines to practice on. He believed that in the future his attainments in alchemy would be higher, and at that time he would be confident in refining the flesh incarnation pill. After observing for a while, Yang Kai found that all the spirit medicines in this medicine garden were priceless, but there was nothing like the flesh incarnation fruit that amazed him. He immediately began to collect them. There were 2 whole medicine gardens and hundreds of spirit medicines. It took Yang Kai more than an hour to collect all of them. There were about 20 left in place, including the flesh incarnation fruit tree. There were 3 white flowers on this fruit tree. If it lived for hundreds or thousands of years, it might bear new fruit. However, Yang Kai had some concerns. He did not dare to touch these 20 spirit medicines. After doing this, Yang Kai glanced at Gao Shueting and found that she was still recuperating and it seemed that it would be a long time before she woke up. Yang Kai was not in a hurry. He used his divine sense to explore the small sealed world bead and took out Zhu Hong and Zhu Tianqing's space. Unsurprisingly, inside the 2 space rings, there were a large number of emperor-grade spirit medicines that had just been collected, which should be the products of this ancient medicine garden. In addition, there were many valuable treasures in their space rings, allowing Yang Kai to make a fortune. Their emperor artifacts, the Burning Sea of Star Saber and 10,000 Beast Seal, also fell into Yang Kai's hands. As for the Burning Sea of Stars blade, although it looked powerful, Yang Kai didn't like using blades, so he didn't have any thoughts of refining it. What's more, even if he refined this emperor artifact, it didn't increase his strength by much. The 10,000 Beast Seal, on the other hand, piqued Yang Kai's interest. This thing was not like an ordinary emperor artifact. It seemed to be able to seal the soul of a monster beast. When fighting, one only needed to release their soul to defeat the enemy. It didn't consume much of his energy. This could be given to Zhang Ruoxi, although Zhang Ruoxi seemed to prefer swords. However, the power of the 10,000 beast seal wasn't small, so it was definitely a good treasure for her. As long as Zhang Ruoxi could refine it, her strength would definitely improve significantly. Thinking of this, Yang Kai's divine sense surged and erased Zhu Hong's soul brand from the 10,000 beast seal. Not long after, a brilliant light flashed and the 10,000 beast seal became gray and dull. He casually threw it into his space ring, planning to give it to Zhang Ruoxi after he left. After waiting for a while, he saw that Gao Shueting still showed no signs of waking up. Yang Kai simply took out his alchemy furnace and found some emperor-grade spirit herbs to refine pills on the spot. One day later, Yang Kai, who was concentrating on alchemy, suddenly noticed that someone was looking at him. His expression couldn't help but change, and he glanced to the side while his hands continued to refine pills. Sure enough, he saw Gao Shueting looking at him with her beautiful eyes. Gao Shueting seemed to understand that she had disturbed Yang Kai's alchemy, and a look of guilt appeared on her face. She didn't dare to say anything and just motioned for him to continue. When an alchemist was refining pills, it was taboo to be disturbed. Gao Shueting had long known that Yang Kai was an alchemist. Otherwise, Yang Kai wouldn't have been able to refine the extraordinary treasure pill back in the Four Seasons realm. Therefore, when she saw Yang Kai glance at her, she knew that her gaze must have disturbed Yang Kai's concentration. She couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. On the other hand, Yang Kai wore an indifferent expression and said with a grin, "Elder Gao, please wait a moment. Disciple is about to finish refining the pills. I'll come back to talk to you after that." While speaking, Yang Kai's expression turned solemn and he immediately immersed himself in alchemy again, surprising Gao Shueting. A series of mysterious pill-condensing seals appeared from Yang Kai's hands. These seals seemed to be extremely profound and actually contained a trace of the heavenly way. Gao Shueting's heart shook violently as a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes. She stared at Yang Kai's movements, unwilling to miss a single detail. She found that Yang Kai's alchemy technique could actually cause her to ponder deeply about the martial Dao heavenly way, allowing her to integrate everything she had learned on the path of martial Dao. This was simply incredible. As one of the top sects in the Southern Territory, Azure Sun Temple naturally had its own emperor-grade alchemist. Although there was only one, it was still an emperor-grade alchemist. Gao Shueting had once been fortunate enough to watch the emperor-grade alchemist refine pills from a distance, but compared with Yang Kai's alchemy technique, the alchemist in the temple was simply unbearable and clumsy. If that alchemist was like a child waving a hoe in the field, then Yang Kai's alchemy was like dancing under the moonlight with a long sword. There was simply no comparison between the two. Who did he learn alchemy from? How did he achieve so much at such a young age? Not only that, but he had also advanced to the emperor realm. Gao Shueting's heart shook. She suddenly found that those so-called genius disciples were all overshadowed by Yang Kai's current achievements. Perhaps even the children of the great emperors could not compare with him. Time seemed to pass very quickly but also very slowly. Just as Gao Shueting was immersed in this strange enlightenment, the feeling that caused her to resonate with the heavenly way and martial Dao suddenly disappeared. She was slightly surprised and fixed her eyes again, only to see Yang Kai forming a seal and shouting, "Condense!" Ding ling ling. Suddenly, a crisp and pleasant sound came from the small alchemy furnace. Yang Kai listened carefully and frowned slightly, seemingly a little dissatisfied with the result of this alchemy. Gao Shueting was surprised. Although she was not an alchemist, she knew that this furnace of spirit pills should have been successfully refined. From the fragrance wafting from the alchemy furnace, it could be inferred that this furnace of spirit pills was an emperor-grade spirit pill, and their quality should not be low. Even so, he was still not satisfied? To what extent did he have to be satisfied? Yang Kai stretched out his hand and patted the alchemy furnace. Under the vibration, 3 round rolling fragrant spirit pills flew out from the alchemy furnace and were drawn into a jade bottle by Yang Kai. After taking a look, Yang Kai curled his lips and casually threw them into his space ring. He then turned his head and looked at Gao Shueting with a smile. "I've kept Elder Gao waiting. How are you feeling?" "I've mostly recovered," Gao Shueting replied. "It wasn't a fatal injury to begin with." After a pause, she asked curiously, "How did you know I was here? You even came to find me directly." Yang Kai said, It was junior sister Lu Wen who sent me a message. He briefly explained what happened after he passed by Earth City and received Lu Wen's message. After Gao Shueting heard this, she smiled and said, "It seems that I'm not destined to die yet. I didn't expect you to pass by Earth City at this time." As soon as she smiled, thousands of pear trees bloomed and the whole world dimmed. She was a cold woman who rarely smiled. At least, Yang Kai had never seen her smile since he had known her for so long. So Yang Kai couldn't help but be stunned. Gao Shueting noticed his strange look and quickly restrained her smile. Her expression was a little unnatural. Yang Kai said, "Elder Gao, you should smile more. So beautiful." Impudent and glib-tongued. Gao Shueting coldly snorted. Yang Kai grinned and said, "I can guarantee that if you smile at Temple Master One like this, he will definitely be bewitched by you." Gao Shueting snorted, "He won't be bewitched. The first thing he will do is ask me if I've become the demon race while cultivating. Then, he will stuff a heart-guarding demon-expelling pill into my mouth and I will spit it in his face." Yang Kai opened his mouth wide and said absent-mindedly, "Temple Master One is so unromantic." Thinking of this scene, Yang Kai was speechless, but judging from Gao Shueting's tone, it seemed that this had really happened. His forehead suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and he quickly changed the topic. "By the way, Elder Gao, this disciple has prepared a small thing for you." "A small thing?" Gao Shueting was surprised and asked suspiciously, "What is it?" Yang Kai took out a jade bottle and handed it to her. "This?" Gao Shueting took it and opened the bottle cap to take a look inside. She immediately saw a round, dark red spirit pill in the jade bottle, exuding a strong bloody smell. A blood frenzy pill. Gao Shueting's beautiful eyes lit up. She had a blood frenzy pill. When she saw Yang Kai being besieged earlier, she wanted to take a blood frenzy pill to stimulate her potential to help him, but Yang Kai stopped her in time. Therefore she recognized it at a glance. This is a high-rank blood frenzy pill, and its effect is 30% better than the one you had before. Moreover, after taking it, as long as you stop circulating your secret art within the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, there won't be many sequelae. You'll be able to recover after a lot of rest in the future, and it won't damage your foundation. This disciple can only refine a high-rank blood frenzy pill for now. You can keep it for now and don't use it unless necessary. When I refine a better one in the future, I'll exchange it for this one." "A better one?" Gao Shueting was speechless. This was already a high-rank blood frenzy pill, so what could be better? After that, it would be a supreme-rank blood frenzy pill, followed by a blood frenzy pill with pill veins and pill clouds. It wasn't something that could be refined at will. Yang Kai said that her blood frenzy pill was of inferior quality, so she didn't know which trash alchemist refined it. He was obviously afraid that her foundation would be damaged after taking that blood frenzy pill, so he refined another one for her. Thinking of this, Gao Shueting's heart warmed. Chapter 25-28. It wasn't difficult to refine a mad blood pill. What was difficult was finding the materials because all the materials required were emperor-grade spirit herbs, and many of them were very rare and difficult to find. Gao Shueting had gathered the materials for the mad blood pill by chance and found an emperor-grade alchemist in the temple to refine it, but in the end only one pill was produced and it was a low-grade one. Yang Kai now gave her a high-grade mad blood pill, so its value was naturally incomparable. Glancing at the dregs on the ground, Gao Shueting immediately understood that Yang Kai must have refined many furnaces and found the best one to give to her. "Elder Gao, throw away the mad blood pill you gave her. That thing can't be taken," Yang Kai said seriously. Gao Shueting nodded and took out the jade bottle containing the mad blood pill from her space ring, poured out the spirit pill, and with a shake of her hand, directly crushed it into powder. She then put the one Yang Kai refined back into the bottle and looked at him. "Are you relieved now?" Yang Kai grinned meaningfully and winked. "Next time if Elder Gao wants to refine an emperor-grade spirit pill, don't hesitate to look for me. This disciple is skilled in alchemy and can give you a 20% discount." Gao Shueting laughed. "You're already an Emperor Realm Master, so don't be as shameless as that surnamed one, lest others see you as a joke." Yang Kai's mouth twitched as he said, "It turns out that Elder Gao has been treating Temple Master One as a joke." Gao Shueting snorted lightly and turned her head to look around before changing the topic. "I see that there are still some spirit herbs in this medicine garden. Why didn't you take them? What are you going to do with them?" After she finished speaking, she seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly she said, "I understand. You alchemists generally don't cut the weeds and root out the roots when collecting spirit herbs. Instead, you deliberately leave some as seeds, right? Yang Kai said, there is indeed such an unspoken rule, but that is for some immature spirit herbs. This medicine garden has existed for a long time, so all the spirit herbs are ripe and can be harvested. Then why did you leave some here? Gao Shueting was puzzled. Yang Kai smiled bitterly, these spirit herbs can't be touched. In this world there are some spiritual medicines that, once plucked, will not disappear. No matter how well preserved they were, they would lose their spirit qi in an extremely short period of time and become withered grass. Therefore, most of the time when these spirit herbs were needed, they would be freshly picked. Elder Gao, some of the medicinal herbs you collected before were of this type. Gao Shueting was startled when she heard this and hurriedly searched her space ring. Not long after, she took out 2 spirit herbs that had lost most of their aura. He said regretfully, that's true. These 2 spirit herbs were the ones she had collected here before, but she didn't expect that in just a little more than a day, so much of their medicinal properties would have disappeared. If another 2 to 3 days passed, she was afraid that they would really turn into withered grass. Then wouldn't it be a pity for these spiritual herbs? Gao Shueting said as she looked at the 20 or so spirit herbs that were still there. Every single spirit herb here was extremely rare. It's nothing. Yang Kai smiled and said insincerely. The other spirit herbs were one thing. If they couldn't pick them, they could just leave them here. If they needed them in the future, it wouldn't be too late to come back. Only the flesh incarnation fruit tree made Yang Kai extremely reluctant to part with it. There were already 3 small flowers on the fruit tree. Although he didn't know how many years it would take for it to bear new fruit, this kind of thing was extinct. Now that it was in front of him, Yang Kai felt like a cat was scratching at his heart. However, he had the sealed world bead, so if he handled it well, there was still a great chance that he could take this medicine garden. But now Gao Shueting was still here, so Yang Kai had to send her away first. If Elder feels that it's fine, then let's go. Then let's go out, Junior Sister Lu Wen is still waiting outside. Yang Kai suggested. Okay. Immediately the 2 came to the entrance. Yang Kai waved his hand and released a few strands of Emperor Qi to unlock the barrier. He then left with Gao Shueting. When they arrived outside, a strong smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. As far as the eye could see, there were several corpses lying haphazardly in the wilderness. All of them were incomplete and had died miserably. Gao Shueting was startled, thinking that there was an ambush outside. But when she looked carefully, she only saw 2 women standing there quietly. One of them was about 20 years old and looked extremely unfamiliar. Although she wasn't very old, she had a powerful 3rd-order Dao Source realm cultivation. The other person was Lu Wen, a disciple of the temple. However, Lu Wen seemed to be a little frightened as her pretty face was a little pale. Seeing Gao Shueting and Yang Kai appear, the 2 women's beautiful eyes lit up and they came forward to greet them. Elder Gao. Lu Wen's eyes were full of joy, as if she had seen a family member. Her face was rosy. Jianghu, she smiled slightly and said, Elder Sister Lu, you can rest assured now. There will be no problem with Sir's help. Lu Wen smiled a little unnaturally and said, Thank you, Brother Yang, for your help. Yang Kai said, Junior Sister Lu is too polite. I am also a temple disciple. When an elder is in trouble, I am duty-bound. Gao Shueting said, In any case, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise speaking of this, she couldn't help but shudder. Thinking back to the previous crisis, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. Shaking her head, she said softly, Now that this matter is over, I plan to return to the temple. Lu Wen, come with me. Lu Wen's face lit up and she quickly said, Yes. Although she was in the Eastern Territory on the orders of the temple, she was still wandering alone. She often missed her familiar brothers and sisters and the familiar scenery. Now that Gao Shueting wanted to take her back to the temple, she was naturally overjoyed. Yang Kai, what about you? Gao Shueting turned to look at Yang Kai. Since Yang Kai appeared in the Eastern Territory, he must have something to deal with, so she didn't ask him rashly if he wanted to return to the Southern Territory with her. Sure enough, Yang Kai shook his head and said, I have to go somewhere to find a friend. Gao Shueting nodded lightly and said, Then you must be careful. Although you are now an Emperor Realm Master and your strength isn't weak, there are many capable people in this world. Many of them aren't as simple as they seem. Disciple will remember, Yang Kai said respectfully. You have time, go back to the temple and take a look. After all, you are still an unnamed disciple of the temple. I will. He definitely had to go back to Azure Sun Temple because he still had to go to the Divine Ascension Mirror and fulfill his promise to Tianyan. The fragrance was still there, but the person was no longer there. 100 kilometers away, Lu Wen looked at Gao Shueting in surprise and asked, "Elder, that brother Yang is so strong, so why is he only an in-name disciple of the temple?" With the strength Yang Kai displayed, he was more than qualified to be an elder of the sect. She originally thought that Yang Kai was a top disciple like Xia Sheng and Xiao Baiyi, but she didn't expect him to only be an in-name disciple. Gao Shueting thought for a moment and said, "Because he didn't join the temple willingly. His Azure Sun golden token was forced on him by this queen." Lu Wen was stunned. In the wilderness, in front of the entrance to the small world, Yang Kai watched Gao Shueting and Lu Wen leave before taking out the 10,000 beast seal and tossing it to Zhang Ruoxi. "Refine this and use it for the time being." Zhang Ruoxi took it and looked at it carefully. She was immediately filled with joy and said crisply, "Thank you, sir, for giving me this treasure." Yang Kai had never given her any treasures, but Lu Yin, Hua Qingxi, and the embodiment all had emperor artifacts, all of which were given to them by Yang Kai. Although Zhang Ruoxi didn't say it out loud, she was looking forward to it. Moreover, she knew that Yang Kai wouldn't discriminate. He just didn't have anything suitable for her for the time being. But she didn't expect Yang Kai to give her one so quickly. Not to mention a strange seal, even if it was a weight, as long as it was given by Kai Yang, it would still be a treasure. Zhang Ruoxi turned the 10,000 beast seal over and over in her hand, and a smile bloomed on her small face. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. Yang Kai glanced at her and said, "Your hostility seems to be very strong. Next time when you fight with someone, control it a little." Zhang Ruoxi heard this and stuck out her tongue. "I don't know what's going on. As long as I fight with someone, it's like I become another person." Sister Lu Wen seemed to be frightened just now. Lu Wen's pale face was probably not because she couldn't stand the blood here. She had also fought and killed people before, so this kind of scene shouldn't have frightened her. Her reaction was definitely because of Zhang Ruoxi. Yang Kai also didn't know why. Zhang Ruoxi was so young, so how could she have such hostility? It wouldn't be strange if this kind of aura appeared on a villain who killed people like flies, but it was very concerning when it appeared on Zhang Ruoxi. The only explanation he could think of was Zhang Ruoxi's bloodline. If he had a chance to see Duan Hongqian again, he had to ask clearly. Otherwise, the brutal hostility might affect Zhang Ruoxi's future temperament. It would be terrible if she turned into a murderous monster. "Sir, where are we going now?" Zhang Ruoxi asked. "Nowhere, wait for me to deal with things here first." Yang Kai opened the entrance to the small world again as he spoke, reached out and brought Zhang Ruoxi in. In this ancient medicine garden, there was nothing else except for the 20 or so spirit herbs left behind by Yang Kai, so the world energy here was extremely rich. After entering, Yang Kai asked Zhang Ruoxi to find a place to rest while he went straight to the two innermost medicine gardens. After looking around for a while, Yang Kai had a plan in his mind. Next, he formed a seal with his hands and Emperor Qi surged all over his body. With a wave of his hand, he sent a stream of energy into the ground and disappeared. Although Yang Kai's movements were swift, he was extremely careful, as if he was afraid of destroying something. After working for an hour, even though Yang Kai had already broken through to the Emperor realm, he was sweating profusely. Obviously, he had consumed a lot of energy. However, since the initial steps were taken care of properly, the rest was easy. Yang Kai sat cross-legged for a while, recovering a little bit of his strength, and then stood up again. His divine sense rushed out like a tide, directly enveloping the two medicine gardens in front of him. Then Yang Kai stomped his foot and shouted, "Rise!" With a rumble, the entire small world shook, and the two medicine gardens slowly rose under the support of a huge force. Chapter 25-29. Since he couldn't pick the remaining 20 or so spirit herbs, he would just move the two herb gardens away. Only Yang Kai could do such a crazy thing because he had the sealed world bead which could accommodate the two herb gardens. If it were anyone else, they would only be able to look at the ocean and sigh. Hong long long. Enveloped by his divine sense, the two herb gardens flew up like two tiny floating islands. Then Yang Kai opened the sealed world bead's entrance and threw the herb gardens into the sealed world bead, placing them next to his own herb garden. After checking with his divine sense, Yang Kai was relieved after confirming that the 20 or so spirit herbs weren't damaged and showed no signs of withering. However, Yang Kai didn't plan to stop there. He turned his head and looked around. Ignoring the consumption of energy, he spent another half a day moving the remaining dozen or so herb gardens into the sealed world bead. This ancient medicine garden being able to cultivate so many 10,000-year-old spirit herbs was probably due to some kind of miraculous effect hidden in the earth. Such soil was naturally extremely fertile, so Yang Kai decided to bring them into his sealed world bead to expand his medicine garden. In the future, if he transplanted any spirit flowers or rare grasses, it would also increase their survival rate. After finishing this, Yang Kai carefully checked the ancient herb garden again. After making sure that he didn't miss anything, he left with Zhang Ruoxi. Half a month later. On the wooden boat, Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi flew quickly. As far as the eye could see, the surroundings were desolate and there wasn't a single soul in sight for 100 miles. During this period of time, the further they went, the fewer people there were. At first, they could see a few cities occasionally. But the further they went, after flying for a long time, they still didn't see a single person. Zhang Ruoxi didn't know where Yang Kai was going, but she didn't ask much. She just followed Yang Kai silently and refined the 10,000 beast seal when she had time. Time flew by quickly. On this day, a dilapidated city suddenly appeared below. The city looked extremely strange. It was as though someone had haphazardly piled them up. The entire city was in a mess without the slightest sense of beauty. The various buildings that stood in the city were also in disarray, scattered all over the place. But such an extremely dilapidated city was extremely lively inside. Many cultivators were running around the city, each with a fierce aura, as if they were not to be trifled with. Yang Kai looked at it for a while. He directly controlled the wooden boat to fly down. Not long after, he and Zhang Ruoxi entered the city. This city didn't seem to have a name. There were many cultivators coming and going, but they were all in a hurry. On both sides of the narrow aisle, there were countless vendors setting up stalls and shouting loudly. This attracted the attention of the people pass. As soon as they entered the city, Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi's ears were soon filled with a variety of shouts. Emperor-grade material, lunar purple jade, an excellent material for nourishing Emperor artifacts. Don't miss it, come and take a look. Emperor-grade high-rank spirit medicine, profound dark spirit congealing grass. Even if you don't refine it into pills, it's still very beneficial to your soul. Only trading, not selling, please don't disturb. 8,000 years ago, a third-order Emperor Realm Master, Mountain Sect Master, Senior Duan Santai's diamond indestructible secret art. It can cast a golden body, indestructible and indestructible. I'm selling it cheaply, only 10 million mid-rank source crystals. I risked my life to bring it back from the ancient lands. If you miss this opportunity, you won't get it again. What? Who said this is a fake? Come on, speak louder. This uncle promises not to beat you to death. The location of the 12th Order Six-Tailed Spirit Fox Cub. This is a rare beast with the bloodline of the Nine-Tailed Spirit Fox Divine Spirit. If you want to tame it, you can talk face to face. I will provide a paid guide service. Zhang Ruoxi's beautiful eyes widened as she looked around. Everything around her was new to her. After looking around for a while, she tugged at Yang Kai's clothes and whispered, "Sir, what is this place? Why are there so many Emperor-grade materials for sale? There are even people selling peerless secret arts and the location of monster beast cubs? And what is this ancient lands they're talking about? If they were selling Emperor-grade materials, it would be fine, but there were even people selling secret arts and the location of cubs. This was simply too rare." However, after listening for a while, Zhang Ruoxi more or less understood that the things sold here seemed to be brought out from the ancient lands. Those who sold the location of the monster beast cubs were also taking people to the ancient lands to tame them. Although this city was chaotic, it was extremely lively. Zhang Ruoxi looked around and found that the cultivator here was basically all above the Dao Source realm. There were very few cultivators below the Dao Source realm. She even saw several masters who passed by, exuding the aura of the Emperor realm. How could a place like this attract so many powerful people? What kind of charm did this place have? Yang Kai smiled slightly and said, "This is near the ancient lands. The ancient lands they're talking about are the ancient lands." Ancient lands? Zhang Ruoxi was stunned. Obviously she had never heard of it. Yang Kai said, "I don't know much about the ancient lands, but I heard that it is an unexplored territory. There are countless powerful monster beasts and even divine spirits living there. There are also many fatal dangers. Even the Emperor realm cannot guarantee their safety there. It's so dangerous, but so many people still go in. Could it be that there are many good things in there?" Zhang Ruoxi suddenly thought of the key point. Yang Kai smiled and said, "The world is bustling because it's profit. The world is bustling because it's profit. Without profit, how could it attract so many masters? Although the ancient lands are dangerous, they are extremely rich in resources. Most of the things sold here do have a trace of wild aura, so they should be found in the ancient lands. Even the mountain and river cauldron of the great emperors was taken out of the ancient lands. Mountain and river cauldron. Zhang Ruoxi's eyes lit up and she became excited. She had also participated in the Shattered Star Seas experience and naturally heard of the mountain and river cauldron, but she didn't know that it was now in Yang Kai's hands. Taking a deep breath, she asked, "Sir, are you here to enter the ancient lands?" Yang Kai nodded. "That's right, I came here for the ancient wild lands." According to the information provided by Yin Lisheng, Xiao Xiao was indeed teleported to the Eastern Territory with him, but Yin Lisheng was injured at the time and felt that he was not Xiao Xiao's opponent, so he didn't dare to find trouble with him. He just followed behind to see if he could find an opportunity to subdue this strange creature. Who would have thought that Xiao Xiao would directly enter the ancient lands? At that time, although Yin Lisheng didn't know about the ancient lands, he instinctively sensed the danger inside, so he had to give up and leave. After that, he never saw Xiao Xiao again. If he was right, then Xiao Xiao should be in the ancient lands now, but whether he was alive or dead was unknown. And under the constraints of the soul contract, Yang Kai estimated that Yin Lisheng wouldn't lie, unless he had a secret technique to avoid the soul contract's punishment. But in any case, Yang Kai had to make a trip to the ancient lands. Yang Kai didn't know much about the ancient lands. If he hadn't come to the Eastern Territory, it would have been the first time he had heard of such a place. So, he had to find someone to inquire about it. Originally, Yang Kai had a suitable candidate in mind, Qi Hai of Qi Family Fort. In the Shattered Star Sea, this person had tried his best to invite Yang Kai to Qi Family Fort as a guest, and Qi Family Fort was near the ancient lands. As a member of the Qi family, Qi Hai must know a lot about the ancient lands and many secrets that others didn't know. With his help, Yang Kai estimated that his safety in the ancient lands would be increased by several times. Unfortunately, the main reason Qi Hai invited Yang Kai was because of the Phoenix True Fire. When Qi Hai's wife was training in the savage wildland, she was struck by one of the 10 great deadly poisons, Heavenly Frost and Earth Rain. She didn't have long to live, and in this world, only the power of nirvana contained within the true phoenix flames could bring her back to life. When Qi Hai entered the Shattered Star Sea, his main purpose was to find the Phoenix True Fire, subdue it and then save his wife. Unfortunately, he didn't have that kind of luck. But now, the Phoenix True Fire was being refined by Lu Yen, and Lu Yen was taken to Spirit Beast Island by Jiufeng. Yang Kai naturally couldn't ask Qi Hai for help so as to avoid awkwardness. Qi Hai's thinking was too simple. He thought that as long as he had the Phoenix True Fire, he could save his wife's life. He didn't know that refining the Phoenix True Fire was very dangerous and time-consuming. Just as Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi were talking, a shifty-looking man with slightly squinted eyes suddenly approached Yang Kai and whispered, "Friend, I have an emperor-grade spirit fruit in my hand, the 9 Heavens Heaven fruit. I can sell it to you at a cheap price. Do you want it?" While speaking, he flipped his palm and a red fruit exuding strong world energy fluctuations suddenly appeared. But it was only for a moment before he put it away. The powerful world energy fluctuations shocked the surrounding cultivators and they all turned their heads to look in this direction. However, after a few stall owners glanced at it, they all showed strange expressions and quickly looked away. 9 Heavens Heaven fruit? Yang Kai raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a meaningful smile. Zhang Ruoxi furrowed her brow and took a step back. Not only was this person's clothes unkempt, but there was also a strange smell coming from his body, as if he hadn't cleaned himself for a long time. It was unbearable. What was even more unbearable was that when this person spoke, his mouth was full of yellow teeth. It was as disgusting as it could get. "Do you want it?" The man lowered his voice and asked as if he was afraid of being heard. "I picked it from the ancient lands after risking my life. There is a 12th order monster beast guarding it." A 12th order monster beast guarding it? Yang Kai was speechless. With his vision as an emperor-grade alchemist, he could naturally tell at a glance that the 9 Heavens Heaven fruit was a fake. The real 9 Heavens Heaven fruit was indeed an emperor-grade spirit medicine, and it was extremely rare. Its world energy was restrained, and it definitely wouldn't emit such a strong world energy fluctuation. There was only one monster beast guarding the 9 Heavens Heaven fruit, and that was the 9 Heavens Thunder Python. It was indeed a 12th order monster beast, but this person in front of him had the cultivation of the first order Dao Source realm. If he really encountered the 9 Heavens Thunder Python, there was no chance of him returning alive. Chapter 25-30. This nameless city was a place where dragons and snakes were mixed together, and there were many cases of swindling and cheating. Although Yang Kai had just arrived here, he wasn't surprised by such things, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. This person probably saw that Yang Kai and Jianghu were young and easy to deceive, so he took the initiative to approach them, hoping to make a windfall. Yang Kai didn't want to pay attention to such a person, but a similar figure suddenly appeared in his mind. When he first met the great emperors of the secular world in Maplewood City, he also seemed to have such a sloppy appearance. Thinking of Duan Hongchen's experience, Yang Kai couldn't help but worry, wondering how he was getting along with Wukong's dual soul. "Friend, do you want to say something? If you don't want it, I'll find someone else." Seeing that Yang Kai seemed to be lost in thought, the man couldn't help but urge him. Yang Kai glanced at him and pushed his emperor chi slightly, disappearing in an instant. The man's face changed and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. With a look of horror, he said, "So it's the master of the Emperor realm." He wasn't weak either, having reached the second-order Dao Source realm, so when Yang Kai pushed his emperor chi, he was able to sense it clearly. Only then did he realize that he had made a mistake. This unassuming young man was not someone he could provoke. In his panic, he smiled and said, "Since Master doesn't need it, this lowly one will take his leave first." What a joke. He only wanted to deceive those Dao Source realm cultivators. Facing an Emperor realm master, he didn't have the guts to do so. He immediately wanted to leave, lest Yang Kai get angry and cause him trouble. "Wait." Yang Kai suddenly stopped him. Cold sweat appeared on the man's forehead as he said in a trembling voice, "Master, is there anything else?" Yang Kai said, "Look at you. Have you been here for a long time?" Replying to Master, this lowly one has lived here for more than 30 years. 30 years? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. "So, you know a lot about the ancient wild lands?" It seemed that Yang Kai's easygoing attitude had influenced him a little. The man's mood gradually calmed down and he hurriedly said, "Understood. Of course. I have something to ask you," Yang Kai said lightly. "Is it related to the ancient lands?" This person was quite quick-witted, immediately guessing. Yang Kai nodded and said, "Is there a place to talk?" That person smiled obsequiously and said, "Sir, if you don't mind, how about I take you to a place? It's just that the cost of that place is a little high." "Don't worry, lead the way." Kai Yang waved his hand. The man was overjoyed and hurriedly led the way. Not long after, the three of them entered a tavern-like place. From the outside, this tavern seemed to have been built randomly. However, the interior was a completely different world. The interior decoration was extremely luxurious. The floor was covered with thick beast hides. It was unknown what kind of demonic beast they were from. The surroundings were decorated with fist-sized luminous pearls, emitting a gentle light. The entire tavern was brightly lit. The air was thick. There was also a faint fragrance wafting in the air, which made one feel refreshed when one smelled it. Looking at the environment of this tavern, Yang Kai knew that the owner of this tavern should have some skill, otherwise, it would be impossible to build such a luxurious tavern. Just as the three of them entered, a man dressed as a waiter came out. When he saw the man with the rat's face, he waved his hand and said, "Go away, this tavern is not a place you can enter. Hurry up and get out of here. Don't dirty the floor here." Although this waiter was just a receptionist, he was actually a third-order Saint King and didn't look very old. This made Yang Kai's eyes light up. He felt that this tavern was full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Although a third-order Saint King was nothing in his eyes, it was a bit overkill to use a waiter to greet a guest. The man named Pai San was furious when he heard this. The veins on his forehead bulged as he shouted, "Brother waiter, don't look down on me. I brought this master here to eat today. If you have anything good to eat or drink, hurry up and serve it. Don't worry about not having enough source crystals to pay." He acted like he was relying on Yang Kai's majesty to show off, which made him look very funny. "Master?" The waiter glanced at Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi and frowned slightly. Zhang Ruoxi looked to be in her 20s. No matter how good her aptitude was, it was impossible for her to be from the Emperor realm. On the other hand, Yang Kai seemed to be more reserved and didn't seem weak. The waiter served here all year round, so naturally he had developed a very good eyesight. With just a glance, he felt that Yang Kai was most likely from the Emperor realm. Otherwise, Pai San wouldn't have called him master. Since they were here to eat, there was no reason for him to stop them. He quickly bowed and said respectfully, "Honored guest, please come in." Pai San also had a flattering look on his face. He nodded and bowed as he led the way, "Master, please come with me. I'll take you to a private room. It will be convenient to talk there." Yang Kai nodded and followed Pai San inside. As they passed by the waiter suddenly said, "Master, this Pai San is very good at swindling people, especially those who are new to this place. Many people have been deceived by him. Master, you must keep your eyes open. Don't fall for his tricks." Yang Kai turned his head and glanced at him, smiling, "Many thanks for the reminder. If he dares to deceive me, I'll make sure he won't see the sun tomorrow." The waiter smiled and said, "Master is wise." When Pai San heard this, his face paled and he hurriedly said, "Master, don't worry. I, Pai San, am very good at swindling people. Master is so wise, how could I dare play tricks in front of you? Wouldn't that be the same as courting death?" Yang Kai didn't comment and continued to wear a mysterious look, causing Pai San to feel even more anxious. Not long after, under Pai San's lead, the three of them entered a private room. Pai San seemed to know that he smelled a little bad, so after Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoshi sat down, he sat down far away from them and said with a smile, "Master, since this is your first time here, you must taste the wild wine here." Yang Kai snorted and said, "You can order whatever you want to eat and drink. Just consider it my reward for asking you questions." Pai San was overjoyed and quickly said, "Many thanks, master." As he spoke, he seemed to be drooling. He slammed the table and called the waiter over. Then he listed more than 10 dishes in one breath as if he was very familiar with them. When Yang Kai heard the names of the dishes, he couldn't help but be a little surprised because the dishes here seemed to be cooked with monster beast body materials and some spirit herbs. The ingredients used to make these dishes were all 11th order monster beast and Dao source grade spirit herbs. Whether these dishes were delicious or not, they were great supplements for any cultivator. If taken over a long period of time, they could definitely enhance one's strength. The waitress was a young maidservant, and after Pai San finished ordering, she looked at Yang Kai awkwardly and said, "Honored guest, this table of food and wine costs a total of 530,000 low-rank source crystals. Would this humble one be so bold as to ask honored guest to settle the bill first?" She seemed to know that Pai San definitely didn't have source crystals to pay, so she looked directly at Yang Kai. Pai San was furious when he heard this and slammed the table. "What's wrong? Are you afraid we'll dine and dash? At such a young age, your eyes are as big as the waiter at the door. What did your master teach you? Everyone here is a guest, is this how you treat guests?" The waiter was so frightened that her beautiful face turned pale and she quickly waved her hands. "No, no." Pai San seemed to want to teach her a lesson, but Yang Kai coldly snorted, causing him to shrink back in fear and immediately shut up. Yang Kai took out a cloth bag from his space ring and handed it to the waiter. "Count it." The waiter took it and scanned it with his divine sense. After confirming the number was correct, he smiled and nodded. "Guests, please wait a moment. The dishes will be ready soon." Saying so, he turned around and walked away. The efficiency of this restaurant seemed to be very high. It didn't take long for a table full of delicious dishes and wine to be served. The table was filled to the brim with food. Suddenly, a rich aroma wafted out of the private room, causing one's appetite to be aroused. When the dishes were served, they smelled good and tasted good. Pai San picked up a wine jug and respectfully came to Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoshi, pouring wine for them. "This wild wine is a treasure here. You two must taste it." Zhang Ruoshi frowned. "Hurry up and finish it, my sir wants to ask you something." She didn't have a good impression of this Pai San, so she didn't mince her words. Pai San said, "Young lady, it's not that Pai San wants to force you, but if you're going to enter the ancient lands, it's best to drink a glass of this wild wine." "What?" Zhang Ruoshi looked at him with a puzzled look. Pai San smiled slightly, because all the ingredients of this wild wine are from the ancient lands, so it has a trace of wild aura. Drinking this wine will allow you to adapt a little to the wild force, so you won't be at a loss when you enter the ancient lands. Wild force. Zhang Ruoshi still didn't quite understand. Yang Kai, on the other hand, showed a thoughtful look and nodded. "Ruoshi, you should drink more and feel the wonders of this wild force." Since Yang Kai had spoken, Zhang Ruoshi naturally didn't refuse and nodded, "Yes." She picked up the wine cup and took a sip, savoring it carefully. Not long after, her brow furrowed as if she was a little surprised. She hurriedly urged her source chi, silently resisting something. Pai San had expected this and smiled. "This wild wine is rich and continuous. Even the masters of the Emperor realm can't bear drinking a jug at a time. Young lady, you must drink it slowly and carefully." As he spoke, Yang Kai also took a sip and felt that there was a mysterious power hidden in this wine. After the wine entered his stomach, It invaded his physique, meridians and dantian, affecting the circulation of his emperor qi. This power felt very familiar to him. Yang Kai raised his brow and immediately reacted. Wasn't this so-called wild force the aura released by the mountains and rivers bell? Chapter 25:31. When Yang Kai activated the mountains and rivers bell, the great desolate power swept over and suppressed the world. It was very similar to the power contained in the wild wine, except that the latter was countless times thinner. After understanding the mystery of the wild wine, Yang Kai circulated his emperor qi to dissolve the wild force in his body. Over on the other side, Pai San had already begun to eat heartily, looking like a reincarnated hungry ghost. He seemed to know that Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoshi weren't interested in this table of food, so he didn't bother to greet them and just stuffed the delicious food into his mouth, chewing noisily. He usually didn't have so many source crystals to eat in this kind of place. Since Yang Kai said that this table of food was his reward for asking him questions, he naturally wouldn't be polite. After stuffing himself with food, Pai San rubbed his round belly and let out a satisfied sigh. Throughout the whole process, Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoshi only shared half a jar of wild wine. Yang Kai only drank a cup while Zhang Ruoshi drank the rest. Her little face was flushed and her eyes were a little blurry. She had the cultivation of the third order Dao source realm, but half a jar of wild wine still made her a little tipsy. It was obvious that the wine was really strong. It probably had something to do with Zhang Ruoshi having never drunk wine before. Now that you've eaten and drunk, I have something to ask you. Yang Kai looked at Pai San, who was reclining in his chair, looking like he had no regrets in life, and said lightly. Pai San immediately jumped up from his chair and said with a solemn face, "Master, please ask. This little one will tell you everything he knows." Yang Kai was satisfied with his attitude and pondered for a moment before saying, "This is my first time here. I know nothing about the ancient lands. Tell me everything you know." San Pai was silent for a while as if he was sorting out his words. After a while he said, "Master, since you have come here because of its reputation, then you must know something about the ancient lands. The ancient lands are wild places that have never been occupied by humans. There are countless powerful monster beasts living there. There were countless natural dangers. Even those from the Emperor realm couldn't guarantee that they would be able to escape unscathed. It could be said that any cultivator who entered the ancient lands was basically putting their lives on the line. They could die at any time. Of course, the greater the danger, the greater the benefits. There were countless spirit herbs and miraculous medicines in the ancient lands, and there were also innumerable precious treasures. Therefore, although it was dangerous, it still attracted countless elites from the entire star boundary. Many people obtained opportunities in the ancient lands, and their strength soared. They were the famous great emperors of the Yuan Cauldron realm. It is said that he found the mountain river cauldron in the ancient lands and became the great emperors. San Pai continued to talk. Although what he said wasn't very useful, and Yang Kai had already understood it, he didn't intend to interrupt him and just listened attentively. The ancient lands is not a place that just anyone can enter. If you want to enter the ancient lands, you have to be at least a Dao source realm cultivator. Those below the Dao source realm don't even have the qualifications to set foot in the ancient lands. There is only one way to enter the ancient lands. It is a huge canyon that is shrouded in a strange fog all year round. It is extremely dense, and when you step into it you won't be able to see your fingers in front of you. Moreover, it can also interfere with your divine sense. If it was just that, it would be fine, but the key is that from time to time, there would be invisible astral winds blowing in the canyon. If a Dao source realm cultivator were to encounter those astral winds, they would die 9 times out of 10. The astral winds are very dangerous, but what is even more dangerous is the falling thunder. Even the Emperor realm can't easily resist the power of the falling thunder. A few years ago there was an Emperor realm cultivator who had just arrived here. He relied on his strength to force his way into the ancient lands without properly investigating the situation. As a result, he never returned. It wasn't until 3 years later that someone found his body 50 kilometers away from the entrance. The top masters of all the great sects in the Eastern Territory have come to investigate the situation of the ancient lands. According to them, there is a natural barrier at the entrance of the ancient lands. The strange fog, astral winds, and falling thunder are all natural barriers that will erupt from time to time. There is no pattern to them. Entering the ancient lands is 30% strength and 70% luck. If you are lucky you will be able to pass through safely, but if you are unlucky you will die. Of course, if Master wants to enter the ancient lands, you have to be wary of another danger. This danger is more lethal than the strange fog, astral winds, and falling thunder. What danger is it? Naturally, it is people. There are some people who hide in the canyon all year round, looking for lone cultivators to rob and kill. Because these people are always in the canyon, they are very familiar with the surrounding environment. If you accidentally encounter these people, it is more troublesome than encountering the astral winds and falling thunder. If Master wants to enter, you must be very careful. Just the passage to the ancient lands is so dangerous, and the ancient lands are even more dangerous. To tell you the truth, Master, because the ancient lands are very special, it is filled with the wild force. No one can explain what kind of force this is, but according to those who have entered, if one is enveloped by the wild force, one's strength will decrease by varying degrees. The lowest is 10 to 20%, and the highest is 50%. Many masters are unable to display their full strength because of the wild force, which is why they have fallen. This is also the reason why this lowly one wants Milord and this young lady to taste the wild wine. Although the wild force contained in the wild wine isn't strong, it is still extremely authentic. After drinking the wild wine, one will more or less understand this strange force and won't be too flustered after entering. The most dangerous part of the ancient lands is the canyon and the wild force. As for what dangers you will encounter after entering the ancient lands, Master, you don't need me to say anything more, right? Monster beasts roam everywhere, and there are countless natural barriers and spirit arrays. It is even said that there are divine spirits inside. In the entire star boundary, the most dangerous place is the ancient lands. After listening to Pai San, Yang Kai's expression became slightly solemn. According to Pai San, the passage to the ancient lands was already so dangerous, so the dangers inside must be 10 times more dangerous. He was not worried about whether he would encounter any danger after entering, but when Xiao Xiao entered this place, his cultivation was only equivalent to an origin king. Could he survive safely in the ancient lands? On the other hand, he did not care too much about the wild force. The mountains and rivers Bell's great desolate force was many times denser than this so-called wild aura. Even without drinking any wild wine, Yang Kai was very familiar with this aura. Moreover, as the current owner of the mountains and rivers cauldron, Yang Kai believed that the ancient land's wild aura would not have much effect on him. Seeing Yang Kai's dignified expression, Pai San thought that he was afraid. This was a very normal thing. Many people came here because of its reputation, but there were also many people who, after hearing about the dangers of the ancient land, left dejectedly. Every year, countless cultivators would pass through this desolate city. Sanpai had lived here for 30 years and had long since become accustomed to this sight. He pondered for a moment and said, "Master, although the ancient lands are rich in opportunities, if you are just looking for treasures, Master shouldn't go in. Isn't it better to take this young lady somewhere else?" The banquet cost Yang Kai 530,000 low-rank source crystals, but Yang Kai did not even frown, so Pai San was very grateful to him and could not help but persuade him. Yang Kai said, "I must enter the ancient lands not to look for treasures. Xiao Xiao disappeared in the ancient lands, so he had to look for him no matter what." "Is that so?" Seeing Yang Kai's firm attitude, Pai San naturally did not say anything more. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and took out a jade slip from his space ring. "Since Master has made up his mind, Pai San will give this to you." "What is this?" Yang Kai asked. Pai San smiled meaningfully and said, "A map of the ancient lands." "There is such a thing?" Yang Kai's interest was immediately piqued and he quickly took the jade slip and poured his divine sense into it. He found that the jade slip really did contain information about a map that was easy to understand at a glance. This is just a map of the periphery. No one knows how big the ancient lands are, but after so many years of exploration, some information about the periphery has naturally leaked out. Someone has combined this information to create this map and marked some dangerous places. If Master enters, you should avoid those places as much as possible. What do the black dots on this map represent? Yang Kai looked at the map for a while and asked. Pai San said, "They represent some natural barriers and spirit arrays. The darker the color, the more powerful the barrier or spirit array." "What about the red dots? Do they represent the monster beast?" Yang Kai asked again. "Yes, the red dots do represent the monster beast. Similarly, the redder the color, the more powerful the monster beast." Yang Kai nodded slightly and found that many places on the map were large red dots, too many to count. This obviously meant that there were groups of monster beasts living in those places, which was an extremely dangerous territory. If he really entered the ancient lands, even he would have to avoid those places. Pai San smiled meaningfully and said, if it was someone else, this little one would sell a simplified version of the jade slip and not so detailed, but this jade slip for master is the most advanced, so master can use it without worry. He had eaten Yang Kai's feast and knew how to return the favor, making Yang Kai feel that the 530,000 source crystals were well spent. Many thanks. Yang Kai nodded. Master, you are too polite. Pai San couldn't help feeling a little flattered. No one from the Emperor realm had ever been so polite to him. Most people, no matter how strong they were, would show a look of disgust when they saw his face and stay as far away as possible. Yang Kai brought him to the best restaurant in Desolation City and ate a table full of good food and wine. Master, there is one more thing this little one wants to tell you. Speak. Pai San said seriously, if master insists on entering the ancient lands, it is best to find old Ban. Who is that? Yang Kai raised his brow. Pai San said, this person's surname is Ban but no one knows his name. He has lived in Desolation City longer than I have and is very familiar with the passage to the ancient lands. If you can ask him to lead the way, master will be able to safely pass through the entrance to the ancient lands. Chapter 2532. A Guide. Yang Kai was surprised. It was quite novel to have someone to lead the way into the ancient lands. But when he thought of the many dangers in the ancient lands passageway, he quickly understood. Master, don't underestimate old Ban. He's only a first-order Dao Source realm cultivator, and he's quite old, but he's the one who has entered the ancient lands and returned safely the most. I've lived here for 30 years and have heard of him more than 100 times. It's already a great achievement for others to return safely 3 or 5 times, let alone 100 times. He's the best guide in the entire desolate city. No one can compare to him. Yang Kai couldn't help but be shocked. How can he enter and exit so many times? Pai San smiled bitterly. I also want to know, but old Ban has never told anyone his secret. But according to my speculation, he should have a safe way in and out. Yang Kai nodded. I'll have to meet him. I wonder if old Ban is in Desolate City now? It was better to be safe than sorry. Although he was bold and skilled, it was still a good choice to have someone to lead him safely into the ancient lands. Yes, I saw him yesterday, but it'll cost at least 300,000 source crystals if you ask him to lead the way. Source crystals are not a problem, Yang Kai smiled slightly. 300,000 source crystals was just a drop in the bucket for him. Pai San's feast had cost him 500,000. Then shall I lead the way, master? Pai San asked politely. Yang Kai nodded and thought for a while. Then he called the restaurant's waitress. He asked her to bring 10 jars of wild wine and pack them up. He didn't need to drink it, but it wouldn't hurt Jianghu to drink more. Not long after, the waitress brought 10 jars of wild wine, but to Yang Kai's surprise, before he could pay the source crystals, the waitress smiled and said, You don't have to pay for these wines. My shopkeeper said these are for master. Please accept them, master. Shopkeeper? Yang Kai couldn't help but frown. On the other hand, Sanpai looked at Yang Kai in shock, his eyes full of surprise. Why is your shopkeeper giving me these? Yang Kai looked at the waiter and asked. The attendant shook his head and said, I don't know either. Yang Kai frowned and waved his hand, taking out some source crystals from his space ring and placing them on the table. Only then did he put the wild wine into his space ring and beckoned to Zhang Ruoxi and Pai San. Let's go. The attendant was slightly stunned. She didn't expect that someone would reject a free gift. By the time she reacted, Yang Kai had already left the restaurant. After leaving the restaurant, Sanpai wanted to say something but stopped several times. In the end, he couldn't hold it in and said, Master, you know that shopkeeper? I don't know him. This is my first time here. Yang Kai replied indifferently. That's strange. Since you don't know him, why did he give you 10 jars of wild wine? Yang Kai chuckled and said, One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Who cares what his purpose is? After a pause, he asked, What's the background of this restaurant? Sanpai said, I don't know. It seems to have been here for a long time. The shopkeeper has always been mysterious and never shows up. So no one in the desolate city knows the origin of this restaurant. However, everyone speculates that it has the shadow of a great force behind it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to establish itself in the desolate city and open such a luxurious restaurant. Even a local snake like Sanpai didn't know the origin of this restaurant. It seemed that it really had the shadow of a great force behind it. Kai Yang had refused the free wine because he didn't want to have anything to do with this restaurant. He didn't want to be soft-hearted in the future. On the second floor of the restaurant, a pair of bright eyes looked in the direction Yang Kai left. After a long time, she sighed slightly and suddenly said, "Send a message to the young master. Tell him that the person he mentioned has arrived and will enter the ancient land soon. Tell him to be prepared." Yes. A person's reply came from the darkness. Desolate City covered a large area. After walking for an incense stick's worth of time, Yang Kai and the others arrived at a place in the western part of the city. Sanpai pointed to a stone house in the distance and said, "This is where Old Master lives. Master, you can go there by yourself. Old Master doesn't have a good impression of me, so I won't accompany you. I don't want him to see me and have prejudice against you." Yang Kai nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Sanpai smiled and said, "Master is too serious. I wish Master a safe journey and come back early. I'll take my leave now." While speaking, Sanpai jumped up and down and quickly disappeared. "Let's go," Yang Kai called out and walked straight to the stone house Sanpai pointed at. The houses here were built without the slightest sense of beauty, but they were extremely sturdy, very much in line with the style of Desolate City. Not long after, Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi arrived in front of the stone house. Looking around, this stone house looked like a small farmhouse courtyard. It was surrounded by a wall made of stones and there was a door in the middle of the house. At this moment, the door was open and two cultivator guards in black clothes stood behind it, one on the left and one on the right. Seeing Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi arrive, the two guards looked at them coldly with cold expressions. "Oh?" Yang Kai was slightly stunned. He thought he had come to the wrong place. There were guards at the door, so it was obvious that some kind of master lived here. Moreover, these two guards were both Dao Source Realm cultivators. Their auras were deep and rich and they seemed to be extremely strong. But according to Sanpai, this old band shouldn't have any noble status. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come and gone through the ancient land's passageway to make a living as a guide. "What are you doing here?" The black-clothed cultivator on the left and right asked in a deep voice. "Excuse me, is this old band's residence?" Zhang Ruoxi asked. "I don't know." The black-clothed cultivator replied coldly. Zhang Ruoxi frowned and said, "What do you mean you don't know? Why are you standing here if you don't know?" Her question wasn't difficult to answer. Yes, yes, no, no. But the other party actually replied with, "I don't know," as if his words were as precious as gold, which made Zhang Ruoxi very angry. The black-clothed cultivator glanced at her and sneered softly, no longer answering. Zhang Ruoxi was annoyed. Yang Kai looked inside and smiled slightly. This should be the right place, but there seems to be someone inside. Speaking of this, he glanced at the black-clothed cultivator standing at the door and asked, "Is that your master?" "Friend, you talk too much. Hurry up and leave," the cultivator on the right suddenly said coldly. Yang Kai grinned and asked, "Why?" The cultivator on the left snorted coldly, "Friend, are you looking for trouble? Didn't you hear me tell you to leave?" Yang Kai was surprised. "Isn't this old band's residence? Why are you asking me to leave?" "My young lady is inside. If you don't want to die, get out of here." Yang Kai was very surprised. He didn't know which force these two cultivators came from, and who the young lady was. How could she be so domineering in the Desolate City? The Desolate City was a place where good people mixed with bad people. If she provoked someone she shouldn't, she would be in big trouble. But these two guards didn't put anyone in their eyes. It was obvious that their background wasn't small, so they could be so unscrupulous. However, he had even killed a third-order Emperor Realm Master and fought against a great Emperor, so there were not many people in this world who could make him afraid. Looking at the two black-clothed cultivators who were trying to intimidate him, Yang Kai didn't get angry and just said politely, "I'm here to talk to Old Ban about something. I'll have to trouble you two to make way." As he spoke, a strange light flashed in his eyes. The two black-clothed cultivators, who were originally aggressive and arrogant, suddenly groaned as if they had been struck by lightning. They took a few steps back and their faces suddenly turned pale. An extremely oppressive feeling made it difficult for them to breathe. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on their bodies. Even moving a finger was extremely difficult. Cold sweat slid down their foreheads as they could only watch Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi walk past them. Zhang Ruoxi couldn't stand their overbearing attitude and waved her fist at them fiercely. Before Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi could enter the inner room, a shout suddenly came from inside, followed by the sound of something piercing through the air. After a soft bang, a muffled groan was heard. At the same time, the shrill cry of a child reached Yang Kai's ears. Yang Kai's expression changed and he quickly rushed into the room. Looking around, he saw a white-haired old man curled up on the bumpy ground. The old man's aura wasn't strong, only at the level of the first-order Dao Source realm. Because of his old age, his vitality had decreased, and his cultivation in the first-order Dao Source realm was a little weak. This man should be the old man that Pai-san mentioned. At this moment he was facing the door with his side, holding a little girl in his arms. On his shoulder, there was a shocking blood stain as if he had been whipped by something. His clothes were tattered and a large piece of his skin and flesh was missing. Blood flowed freely from the wound. The little girl in his arms was crying loudly at this moment. She must have been frightened by something. In addition to the old man and the young girl, there were two other people in the room. One of them was about 50 years old, with a dignified expression on his face, looking coldly ahead with an indifferent expression. The other person was a young girl in a fiery red dress. This young girl looked about the same age as Zhang Ruoxi. Her face was extremely delicate, and her figure was full of curves. Her tight dress outlined her delicate figure, and together with the fiery red dress, she looked like a blooming rose. However, at this moment the young girl was holding a soft whip as thick as a thumb. She raised it high and looked like she was about to swing it. With a fierce expression on her face she shouted, "Old thing, don't be so shameless. This young lady let you lead the way because she thinks highly of you. If you dare to say no again, this young lady will whip you to death." From the looks of it, the wound on the shoulder of the old man who was curled up on the ground was obviously caused by the young girl. The little girl was also scared to tears by her. "I'll ask you one more time, will you lead the way or not?" The young girl glared at the old man fiercely. The old man lowered his head and gritted his teeth. "Young lady, can you give me a few more days? Little Ling is sick and needs someone to take care of her. If I leave, what will happen to her?" Chapter 25-33. What does this dirty girl's illness have to do with this young lady? This young lady's time is very precious. Let alone a few days, I can't afford to waste even a moment. I'll ask you one last time, are you going to lead the way or not? The girl in red snorted coldly, unmoved. Old Ban begged bitterly, "Just 2 days, this old man only needs 2 days. After 2 days, this old man will definitely bring young lady safely into the ancient lands. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Old thing, you're courting death." The girl in red shouted. She seemed to be in a bad mood, and with a wave of her hand, the soft whip whizzed towards Old Ban. The girl in red's cultivation wasn't low. Like Zhang Ruoxi, she was in the third-order Dao Source realm. The whip she lashed out in anger had an astonishing momentum, accompanied by the faint sound of wind and thunder. It was unknown what kind of secret technique she had used. If this whip hit, Old Ban wouldn't be able to resist it with his first-order Dao Source realm cultivation. He would probably be whipped half to death. However, her whip was caught in midair by a hand. The other party didn't seem to use much strength, but she couldn't move. The girl in red was furious. She turned her head and saw a girl about the same age as her standing behind her, glaring at her angrily. The one who grabbed her whip was naturally Zhang Ruoxi. Although this Zhang family girl had a violent aura and cruel means when she fought, she was usually a weak and innocent girl with a kind heart. At this moment, seeing such violence in front of her, she naturally couldn't stand it anymore and took the initiative to attack without waiting for Yang Kai to say anything. "If you have something to say, say it. How can you hit people?" Zhang Ruoxi shouted. The girl in red frowned and said angrily, "Little girl, who are you? How dare you meddle in this young lady's business?" Zhang Ruoxi snorted coldly, "Call me a little girl. Aren't you a little girl yourself? No matter what, it's wrong for you to hit people. Didn't this old man say that he wanted you to give him 2 days? Can't you see that this little girl is sick? You dare talk back to me?" The girl in red erupted like a volcano. Her whole body was covered in flames of anger as she shouted, "Believe it or not, I'll kill you." While they were talking, he suddenly pulled the soft whip in his hand, wanting to pull his weapon back. But no matter how hard she tried, Zhang Ruoxi firmly grasped the whip in her hand. Zhang Ruoxi's delicate hand seemed to be carved from jade, and although she didn't seem to be exerting much strength, she was still able to hold onto the soft whip tightly. The red-clothed girl's expression changed slightly as she realized that Zhang Ruoxi wasn't someone to be trifled with. Although both she and Zhang Ruoxi were cultivators of the third-order Dao Source realm, This red-clothed girl was obviously just a figurehead with very little experience in actual combat. She tried several times but failed to retract her whip. Her small face couldn't help but redden as she stomped her feet angrily. "Old Fu, why aren't you doing anything? This young lady is being bullied. If you don't do anything, I'll go back and report to my father, master, and tell him to break your legs. Also, what are those two pieces of trash doing? He didn't even try to stop someone from barging in. Later, this young lady will definitely extract their souls and refine them into soul slaves." She gritted her teeth and shouted for a while, but Old Fu still didn't make a move. It wasn't that Old Fu didn't want to make a move, but he couldn't. When Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi broke in, he saw them, but he didn't pay much attention to them. After all, whether it was Yang Kai or Zhang Ruoxi, they didn't look very old, so even if they had some skills, they wouldn't be too strong. When Zhang Ruoxi reached out to grab his young lady's whip, he wanted to stop her, but when he met Yang Kai's eyes, his heart skipped a beat. His heart skipped a beat and his mind was in a trance. He couldn't immediately take action. After that, he and Yang Kai stared at each other for a long time. At this moment, Old Fu's heart was in turmoil because he found that the young man in front of him was actually from the Emperor Realm. At such a young age, he was already an Emperor Realm master. Was he an outstanding disciple of some great force? Or did he obtain an incredible opportunity in the Shattered Star Sea? Recently, many rising stars in the star boundary had broken through to the Emperor Realm like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. This was no secret. In Old Fu's opinion, Yang Kai should be one of those rising stars. But even though he was a little shocked, he still didn't put Yang Kai in his eyes. In this world, there were only a few people who dared to provoke his young lady, and among those few people, Yang Kai was definitely not one of them. So, under the repeated urging of the red-clothed girl, he finally took action. Suddenly, a divine light bloomed from his eyes, turning into an invisible force that stabbed towards Yang Kai's mind like a sharp sword. A soul attack. Yang Kai raised his brow, a little surprised. He and Old Fu were both First-Order Emperor Realm Masters, so their cultivations were about the same. If Old Fu didn't have great confidence in his soul, he wouldn't have used a soul attack as it was too risky. If Yang Kai's soul was stronger than his, Old Fu might suffer a backlash. Judging from the strength of his opponent's attack, Old Fu's soul was indeed strong. It was above the average First-Order Emperor Realm Master and could even be barely comparable to a Second-Order Emperor Realm Master. This was probably the source of his confidence. As soon as the soul attack was launched, Old Fu no longer paid attention to Yang Kai. He seemed to think that even if this attack couldn't hurt Yang Kai, it would definitely make him panic for a while, so he reached out to grab Zhang Ruoxi. Seeing that Old Fu finally made a move, the red-clothed girl couldn't help but shout excitedly, "Good, good, good. Old Fu, catch this cheap servant for me. This young lady will shave her face and let her know the consequences of offending this young lady." As soon as Old Fu moved, Zhang Ruoxi couldn't help but tremble. She immediately felt like she was being suppressed, and even her breathing became slightly rapid. When she heard the vicious words of the red-clothed girl, her face turned even paler. She was only in her early 20s and was just a girl who hadn't seen much of the world. If her face was really disfigured, she probably wouldn't dare to come out in the future. Although she didn't care much about her appearance, who would be willing to suffer such torture? The red-clothed girl saw Zhang Ruoxi's panic and couldn't help but laugh proudly. "Now you're afraid? It's too late. This young lady will not only shave your face, but also strip you naked and throw you out in public for those dirty and smelly men to see." Zhang Ruoxi felt dizzy, and her pale face became even paler. In his mind, he couldn't help but think of the scene where he was stripped naked, surrounded by countless people and pointed at. He was so frightened that he almost cried. If this really happened, she would no longer have the face to live in this world. Whose little girl is this? How could she be so vicious? Yang Kai suddenly snorted coldly. Even though he was a man, he couldn't bear to listen to this. This red-clothed girl opened her mouth and said that she would shave her face and strip her clothes. That was too vicious. Old Fu, who was about to grab Zhang Ruoxi, trembled as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He quickly withdrew his fierce aura and at the same time, let out a muffled groan and staggered back a few steps. His heart shook violently and he couldn't hide the horror in his eyes. His soul attack had been countered by Yang Kai. Fortunately, he was anxious to save his master and didn't release too much spiritual energy, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. This young man, his soul is stronger than mine? How is this possible? Old Fu knew how strong his soul was. Because of some opportunities in his early years, he had refined the waterfall divine grass, which could greatly increase his soul's strength. An ordinary First-Order Emperor Realm Master couldn't compare to him, but this young man not only survived his attack, he even slightly injured him. Is he a Second-Order Emperor Realm Master? He had long heard that there were dragons and snakes mixed together in this desolated city, and now it seemed that this rumor was true. Old Fu's face was gloomy as he looked at Yang Kai with some fear. He thought that with his identity and strength, he could at least protect himself in this desolated city, but now it seemed that he was too naive. This random young man had such strength. How many monsters were hidden in the entire barren city? Without the suppression of Old Fu's aura, Zhang Ruoxi quickly recovered. The red-clothed girl was still chattering, saying that she would use the most vicious means to punish Zhang Ruoxi. Zhang Ruoxi was furious, so she let go of her whip and slapped the red-clothed girl's chest. The red-clothed girl had been counting on Old Fu to save her, so she didn't expect such a turn of events. She was caught off guard by Zhang Ruoxi's slap and immediately let out a scream as her petite body flew backwards like a kite. Old Fu was shocked and stretched out his hand, sending out his Emperor Qi to catch the red-clothed girl. He didn't even dare to touch the red-clothed girl's body with his hand. What stunned Yang Kai was that after taking Zhang Ruoxi's angry blow, the red-clothed girl was completely fine. She staggered a few times to regain her balance and looked at Zhang Ruoxi blankly. It took her a long time to react and ask in a daze, "You hit me?" She seemed to be in disbelief of what had just happened. "You bitch, how dare you hit me?" The red-clothed girl suddenly became hysterical, as if Zhang Ruoxi had done something absolutely unforgivable. Her pair of beautiful eyes turned red, and her face became frighteningly ferocious. As she shouted, the soft whip in her hand whistled through the air again, fiercely lashing out at Zhang Ruoxi. Zhang Ruoxi was also stunned. She had just slapped the red-clothed girl in anger, but she didn't expect the red-clothed girl to be completely fine. Moreover, the feeling of the slap on her chest was very strange, as if it wasn't a human body, but a ball of cotton, making Zhang Ruoxi feel like she couldn't exert her strength. This was the first time she had encountered such a thing, so she couldn't help but think a little too much. It wasn't until the whip hit her that she came back to her senses. Gritting her teeth, she flashed a few times like a ghost and instantly rushed in front of the red-clothed girl. Her pair of jade palms turned into countless afterimages as source chi surged, quickly greeting the red-clothed girl. Chapter 2534. This red-clothed girl was obviously a spoiled young lady from a large force. Although her strength was not bad, her actual combat experience was pitifully little. At this moment, in her anger, her attacks were even more disorganized. She only knew how to wave her soft whip carelessly, not displaying her full strength at all. Although Zhang Ruoxi had not participated in many battles, during the 20 days in Purple Mountain City, she had fought life and death battles in the arena every day. Naturally, she had much more experience than the girl in red. Therefore, when the two fought, the situation was one-sided, and the girl in red was completely suppressed. Asterisk ping ping ping. Asterisk the sound of explosions continued to ring out as Zhang Ruoxi's two hands turned into afterimages, constantly attacking the girl in red. Every blow forced the girl to stagger back, while her attacks were easily dodged by Zhang Ruoxi. However, even after taking dozens of blows in an instant, the girl in red was not injured at all. Her fierce aura did not diminish in the slightest, but this kind of fighting style made her extremely angry. She screamed and her pretty face twisted as if she wanted to eat someone. A defensive emperor artifact. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and finally understood why the girl in red was not injured. Because every time Zhang Ruoxi struck, a faint light would flash from the girl in red's body, completely neutralizing Zhang Ruoxi's attack. She was not injured at all. With such a powerful defensive ability, it was definitely a defensive emperor artifact. This girl in red is definitely wearing an artifact armor. Emperor artifacts were rare, and defensive emperor artifacts were even more precious. To be able to have a defensive emperor artifact, this girl in red must have a great background. Kill you, kill you, kill you. Although the girl in red was not injured, she was battered and exhausted by Zhang Ruoxi. He kept retreating while yelling fiercely. But after a while she found that she was no match for Zhang Ruoxi at all and immediately shouted, "Old Fu, why haven't you killed her yet?" Old Fu was also suffering at this moment. He had just been controlled by Yang Kai's soul. Although he was not seriously injured, under the watchful eyes of Yang Kai, he did not dare to act rashly. At this moment, when he heard his young lady's call, he could only grit his teeth and rush towards Zhang Ruoxi. Just as he was about to move, Yang Kai flashed in front of him like a ghost and lightly pushed his palm towards him, saying indifferently, "Old man, these little girls are fighting. You shouldn't interfere, it's not fun to bully the weak." See? Old Fu gasped and retreated. His figure explosively retreated. Kai Yang's palm seemed extremely ordinary without any special effects, but he felt a fatal danger from it. If he was really hit, he would probably lose half his life immediately. Who is this brat? How can he be so strong? His eyes were filled with bewilderment, even though he wanted to save his master. But there was nothing he could do at this moment. On the other side, Old Ban was protecting a little girl called Lil Ling, had already retreated to the corner of the house, holding little Ling tightly in his arms as he watched the fight in the house in horror. Although he had lived in Desolated City all his life, he was only a cultivator in the First Order Dao Source realm. Now that he had little Ling to take care of, he was naturally afraid of getting into trouble. But now in his own house, two girls were fighting fiercely. Two Emperor Masters were confronting each other head-on, making him feel a little dizzy. These two groups of people. They seemed to have great backgrounds and he could not afford to provoke any of them. Although he was grateful to Yang Kai and Zhang Ruoxi for helping him, he did not dare to say anything at this moment. He could only secretly pray that no one would die. Asterisk ping ping ping. Asterisk with a wave of Zhang Ruoxi's hands, the red-clothed girl was forced into a corner. The red-clothed girl had nowhere to retreat, and all her attacks were easily dodged by Zhang Ruoxi. It was as if she had turned into a sandbag and could only passively endure Zhang Ruoxi's blows. Fortunately, her defensive Emperor artifact was extremely strong, so Zhang Ruoxi did not kill her. Although she looked battered and exhausted, her life was not in danger. It was just that she had lost all her face. The girl in red felt wronged and her eyes turned red. It was unknown whether she was angry or crying. "Junior, tell your little girl to stop immediately and apologize to my young lady, or you will die." Old Fu was intimidated by Yang Kai and could not help his young lady. He could only grit his teeth and shout angrily, "How dare you threaten me?" Yang Kai snorted coldly and looked at Old Fu coldly. The latter's heart trembled and he could not help but gulp. Old Fu forced himself to calm down and shouted, "Do you know who my young lady is?" "She is..." Before he could finish his words, Yang Kai turned his head and said, "Ruoxi, she is wearing a defensive Emperor artifact. It's useless for you to hit her like this." Old Fu did not know what kind of power he used, but he felt a buzz in his head and could not say anything else. A defensive Emperor artifact? Zhang Ruoxi heard this and suddenly realized why she felt so strange. It was as if she was hitting a ball of cotton. It turned out that this girl had an Emperor artifact just like herself. Then what should I do? Zhang Ruoxi took a step back and stood still. The girl in red was attacked for a while. Although she was angry, her face was pale. Anyone who was beaten like this would be frightened, even if she was protected by an Emperor artifact. At this moment she was looking at Zhang Ruoxi with eyes full of fear. Ever since she was a child, no one had ever dared to disobey her. Even if she wanted the stars in the sky, someone would try to pluck them for her. She had never been hit by anyone before. But today, in this dilapidated stone house in Desolated City, she was beaten by Zhang Ruoxi more than 100 times. At this moment she was shocked and afraid of Zhang Ruoxi, but also extremely angry. She could not wait to kill her. Hearing Zhang Ruoxi's question, Yang Kai touched his chin and said leisurely, "Although an Emperor artifact is powerful, it can't protect everything. Didn't she just say that she wanted to scratch your face?" Zhang Ruoxi nodded and said, "Ruoxi understands." As she spoke, she coldly looked at the red-clothed girl, her pair of beautiful eyes constantly sweeping over her delicate face. What are you doing?" The girl in red looked at Zhang Ruoxi's malicious eyes and her beautiful eyes were immediately filled with horror. She screamed and retreated, but there was a wall behind her. Where could she go? The soft whip in her hand had long been thrown to the ground. Old Fu was also shocked. Listening to Yang Kai's words, it seemed that the girl was going to slap his young lady's face. If she was really slapped in the face, what would happen with his young lady's temper? The whole Eastern Territory would be shaken. He shouted, "Boy, listen carefully, my young lady is from..." "I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen." Yang Kai shook his head like a rattledrum. Old Fu's words came to an abrupt end. There was no way for him to explain what happened next. He immediately understood that Yang Kai must have seen that their origins were extraordinary, so he didn't want to know the details at all. He didn't want to have any scruples after knowing. This was simply too despicable and shameless. Usually he only needed to report his identity and origin, and no matter how strong the enemy was, they would retreat in fear. But when it came to Yang Kai, he couldn't even complete a sentence, so how could he report his identity? Yang Kai coldly snorted and said, "Ruashi, if anyone here dares to say a word except for me, slap this girl's face with all your strength." Yes. Zhang Ruashi naturally obeyed. This was Yang Kai's order, so even if the person standing in front of her was the emperor, she would still slap him. "You dare." The girl in red couldn't help but shout. Asterisk slap. Asterisk with a crisp sound, the girl in red's head was slapped to the side, and a red palm print immediately appeared on her left cheek. The red-clothed girl was stunned by the slap. She covered her cheek with her hand and stared at Zhang Ruashi in a daze. The burning pain on her cheek made her feel extremely terrified and comical. After a while she muttered, "You really dare?" Asterisk slap. Asterisk this time a palm print also appeared on the girl in red's right cheek. Wah! The girl in red burst into tears. Her tears fell like a broken string of pearls and she looked heartbroken. Seeing this, Zhang Ruashi frowned and shouted, "Shut up! If you cry again, I'll slap you again." These words seemed to have infinite magic. The girl in red stopped crying at once, but her shoulders were trembling and she was choking with sobs. She was really scared of being beaten. Zhang Ruashi snorted coldly, "You're crying so hard after being slapped twice? Why didn't you think about whether you were doing the right thing when you slapped him just now? It's not like he didn't want to show you the way. He just wanted you to give him 2 days grace. Why did you treat him like that? Do you know how painful it is when you whip him? How dare you, little girl?" Old Fu shouted when he saw that Zhang Ruashi not only slapped his young lady but also scolded her seriously. How could he bear it anymore? Zhang Ruashi raised her hand and slapped him again. "Sir said that whoever dares to speak will be beaten. If you want to blame someone, blame the person who spoke just now." The girl in red turned her head and glared at Old Fu fiercely with her beautiful eyes, as if she wanted to kill him. Old Fu shrank his neck under her glare. He knew that the young lady was holding a grudge against him, and his mouth was full of bitterness. Yang Kai chuckled and looked at Old Fu. "Old sir, do you have anything else to say? This young master is all ears." Old Fu's face was gloomy. He looked at Yang Kai coldly but he didn't dare to say a word. What a joke. If he said a word, the young lady would be slapped. He had already made the young lady hate him. If he said anything more, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to live past tomorrow. But as the young lady's guard, he had failed to protect her. He had failed in his duty to protect her, and he didn't know what kind of punishment he would receive when he returned. Old Fu was in a dilemma. The grievance in his heart was like a 1,000-year-old wine that kept churning, making him see stars. He wished he could just faint here and now. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Her face was ferocious and full of resentment. She kept talking. Her anger seemed to have materialized, igniting her entire being. Since childhood, she had never suffered such a loss, let alone being slapped in the face in public. Although she was so frightened at the time that she didn't even have the courage to speak, when she arrived at a safe place, humiliation and anger surged up, making it unbearable. The anger in her chest was so strong that she almost vomited blood. If she didn't take revenge, how could she be a human? She gritted her teeth and cursed as she held the soft whip in her hand and kept lashing it at the 2 cultivators from the Third-Order Dao Source realm. These 2 Third-Order Dao Source realm cultivators had decent cultivations and were from top sects. Even if they were placed outside, they would still be considered top-notch masters. However, they didn't even dare to dodge or circulate their source chi to resist this red-clothed girl's whip. They could only grit their teeth and stand in place. As the whip came down, the 2 men's skin and flesh were lacerated, blood flowed out, and their clothes were torn. The 2 men's eyes were also burning with anger, but this anger was not directed at their young lady, but at Yang Kai. They felt that if it weren't for Yang Kai and Zhang Ruashi, they wouldn't have been beaten by the young lady. This was all Yang Kai's fault. Old Fu stood aside and watched in horror, fearing that the young lady would lash him in a fit of rage, so he didn't dare to say anything to persuade her. He was a master from the Emperor realm. If he was really whipped by the young lady, he would have no face to see anyone in the future. Fortunately, the young lady seemed to have given him some face. Although she was so angry that she almost lost her mind, she didn't punish him. She just lashed the soft whip in her hand again and again, making the two-third order Dao Source realm cultivators suffer so much that they couldn't help but cast a pleading look to Old Fu for help. Old Fu turned his head and pretended not to see them, making the two guards so angry that they cursed in their hearts. After venting for a long time, the red-clothed girl seemed to be tired and fell to the ground, panting. Her clothes were soaked with sweat, and her graceful figure was faintly visible. But no one dared to enjoy such a beautiful scene. Old Fu kept his eyes down, and the two guards were half dead at this moment. They stood there trembling as if they would fall at any moment. Old Fu, send a message back to the palace and quickly mobilize manpower, the red-clothed girl suddenly said. Old Fu was startled and asked in surprise, "Young lady, what do you want to do?" The red-clothed girl sneered and gritted her teeth. "What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Of course I want to catch that dog couple. I want to skin them, eat their flesh and drink their blood. I want them dead." Old Fu said, "Absolutely not." The red-clothed girl was furious. "What's wrong with that? You don't even have the courage to fight with them. Do you think I expect you to avenge me?" Old Fu's face turned red at the red-clothed girl's words, but it was true. Under the deterrence of Yang Kai, he didn't even have the courage to make a move. Even so, he still tried to persuade her. "Young lady, before you left, the master told us that this trip is mainly to travel and temper your character. You must not bully others. If the master finds out the truth of this matter, will you still have the chance to leave the palace in the future? Have you forgotten what happened 3 years ago?" Hearing Old Fu mention the incident 3 years ago, the red-clothed girl seemed to recall something and couldn't help but shiver, her face full of fear. 3 years ago she had also gone out to travel once. However, she had made a small mistake. She had used her identity to bully a few martial artists who were not worthy of being shown in public. Now that Yang Kai had left, he could only send the news back to Qi family fort as soon as possible and let the young fort master decide what to do next. 100 kilometers away from where Yang Kai and the others were originally hiding, in another cave, a group of gloomy cultivators with cold temperaments gathered in one place. This cave was much larger than the one where Yang Kai and the others were hiding, and it could accommodate more than 20 people without being crowded. Most of these people were wearing the same clothes, so it was obvious that they were from the same sect. The leader was a second-order Emperor Realm Master in a luxurious robe. He was about 50 years old, but his face was ruddy and his forehead was full. This person was Elder Hua Fei Qin of the Netherworld sect. Beside Hua Fei Qin, Yin Lisheng's pair of snake-like eyes stared at the strange fog outside, as if he wanted to look into the depths of the strange fog. The corners of his mouth curled up in a cold smile, making people feel extremely uncomfortable. Recalling his encounter with Yang Kai in the Shattered Star Sea, Yin Lisheng couldn't sleep or eat well. Ever since he started cultivating, he had never suffered such a big loss. It had always been him crushing others with absolute strength, but he never thought that there would be a day when there would be a martial artist of the same level who would surpass him in strength. This was simply unbearable for him. The most intolerable thing was that in order to save his life last time, he had to compromise and say some soft words. If he didn't have information that Yang Kai was interested in, he would have been killed. In the end, he had to rely on the soul contract to save his life. Back in the Starlight Corridor, Yang Kai was not his opponent at all, but in less than 10 years Yang Kai had grown to such an extent. If he was given a few more years, wouldn't he be able to ravage Yin Lisheng at will? Since he had already offended him, he had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. If he really allowed Yang Kai to grow, Yin Lisheng's future days would be difficult. Therefore, after returning to the sect, Yin Lisheng asked his master to send Elder Hua Fei Qin and more than 20 disciples to the ancient land's passageway to kill Yang Kai. With Hua Fei Qin, the heaven and earth absolute sealing array, and his own trump cards, it was impossible for Yang Kai to survive this time. Yin Lisheng really wanted to see the scene of Yang Kai kneeling and begging for mercy. It would definitely be a wonderful scene. Elder, this is bad. An exclamation suddenly interrupted Yin Lisheng's reverie, making him extremely unhappy. Turning his head, he saw a Netherworld sect disciple standing beside Hua Fei Qin with an ugly expression. What's the matter? Yin Lisheng frowned and asked. Hua Fei Qin also opened his eyes and looked at him faintly. The disciple trembled and said, Brother Yao is dead. Who killed him? Yin Lisheng gritted his teeth and asked. Although the ancient land's passageway was filled with dragons and snakes and was not safe, the disciples of the Netherworld sect were also famous in the Eastern Territory. Who would dare kill them so easily? It seems, it's him. As the disciple spoke, he suddenly wiped a bead on his palm and a phantom image appeared in the air, reflecting the scene of Yang Kai reaching out and crushing the 5 viscera and 6 bowels of the wrinkly-faced man. It was unknown what kind of secret technique this was, but it was able to transmit the scene the wrinkly-faced man saw before he died here, allowing Hua Fei Qin and the others to see it clearly. Yang Kai. Yin Lisheng grit his teeth and shouted as he stared at Yang Kai in the phantom image. Meeting an enemy, his eyes blazed with hatred. Young lady has always been like this. She has no other intentions. Although Hua Fei Qin was annoyed, he couldn't do anything. He could only say with a cold face, it doesn't matter. Young lady Lin is straightforward, so this king naturally won't take her seriously. On the other side, Yang Kai heard this and a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. He nodded and said, I understand. Lin said bitterly, what do you understand? Yang Kai shook his head and said, nothing. Young lady is in cahoots with the Netherworld sect. Are you trying to make things difficult for this young master? Lin gritted her teeth and said, so what? Seeing Yang Kai standing there motionless, she thought that Yang Kai was afraid, so she immediately said proudly, if you want to live, obediently roll over here and kowtow to this young lady a few times, Then offer your soul seal and be this young lady's servant for 10 years. Maybe if this young lady is in a good mood, she will spare your life. Oh. Yin Lisheng's face changed greatly when he heard this, and he hurriedly stopped her. He had brought so many people with him this time. They wanted to kill Yang Kai, but this red-clothed girl said that she might spare his life. How could this matter be settled peacefully? In any case, Yang Kai must die today. Before he could say anything, Lin turned her head and shouted angrily, "Shut up! This young lady is speaking. Who gave you the right to interrupt?" Yin Lisheng was so angry that his face twisted, but he didn't dare to say a word. He was also furious in his heart. It was clearly this girl who wanted to use him and the others to get back her face, but in the blink of an eye, he and the others seemed to have become her subordinates who had to listen to her orders. What was this? Lin turned her head to look at Yang Kai again, looking around for a while, then frowned and said, "Where is that damn girl? Where did she go?" When she saw Yang Kai earlier, she was so angry that she forgot about Zhang Ruoxi's existence for a while. Only now did she suddenly realize that Yang Kai had come here alone, and Zhang Ruoxi was nowhere to be seen. Yang Kai just smiled and didn't say a word. Lin said angrily, "Are you deaf? This young lady asked you a question. Where did that damn girl go? She dared to slap my face. I'll make her suffer a fate worse than death." Slap her face. Hua Feichen suddenly pricked up his ears and looked at Lin in amazement. The other Netherworld sect disciples also had horrified expressions as if they had seen a ghost. In this world, there was actually someone who dared to slap this young lady's face? Who was this damn girl she was talking about? How could she be so audacious? Old Fu stood to the side, cold sweat dripping down his forehead, and his legs trembling. The eldest miss had actually been slapped in the face under his protection. If no one had mentioned this matter, it would have been fine, and it would have been covered up without anyone knowing. However, this eldest miss had actually mentioned it in front of everyone. If this were to reach the master's ears, how could he still be alive? Old Fu was so scared that he quickly cast a pleading look at Hua Feichen, as if begging him not to spread this matter. Hua Feichen observed Old Fu's expression and knew what he was thinking. He just smiled and gently nodded in response. Although Old Fu's cultivation was not as good as his, he was still from that place and had been the young lady's guard for many years. There was no harm in having a good relationship with him. Perhaps there would be a time when he needed Old Fu's help in the future, so he would definitely benefit from this. Receiving a response, Old Fu quickly cupped his fists and expressed his gratitude. Lin clamored for a while, her chest heaving up and down. Finally, she put her hands on her hips and said angrily, "Hurry up and call that damn girl out." The 20 or so Netherworld sect disciples received the order and poured their source chi into the Netherworld purgatory banners in their hands, suddenly urging the power of the spirit array. Asterisk hoo hoo hoo, asterisk a series of ghostly wails and wolf howls rang out, making everyone feel as if they had suddenly arrived in the Netherworld. A chilling aura spread out, causing the ground to freeze. The surrounding trees, flowers and grasses instantly withered and turned into ashes. The 20 or so Netherworld purgatory banners constantly poured out thick black chi, and within this black chi, countless Yin souls and ghosts could be vaguely seen, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. In just 3 breaths of time, the world sealed off by the heavenly net absolute sealing array became pitch black, and if one looked from a distance, it was as if a huge black sphere had suddenly appeared between the heavens and the earth. This black sphere was several tens of meters in diameter and covered a large area, causing Yang Kai's figure to completely disappear. The power of the spirit array was already so terrifying, so it would be even more terrifying if it was fully unleashed. Yin Lisheng's mouth was filled with a sinister grin as he stared at the huge black sphere, seemingly wanting to witness Yang Kai's death with his own eyes. If Yang Kai had a little hope of escaping before, then now that the power of the spirit array had been fully unleashed, Yang Kai had no chance of surviving. Shrouded in this spirit array, one's vitality would be constantly drained away. Not only that, but the power of the 20 or so Netherworld purgatory banners would also be greatly enhanced by the spirit array, and coupled with the joint attack of the 20 or so Netherworld sect disciples, Yang Kai would be ground to death. Yin Lisheng, you've done everything you can to take my life. Do you really think this young master can't break this spirit array? Yang Kai's shout suddenly came from the black sphere, full of energy as if he was not affected by the spirit array at all. Yin Lusheng's eyes narrowed as he suddenly had a very bad feeling. Before he could reply, a terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly spread out from the black sphere, followed by a deafening explosion. The already huge black sphere seemed to have expanded rapidly under the eruption of some kind of energy, as if it could collapse at any time. The 20 or so Tao Source Realm disciples in charge of the Heavenly Net Absolute Sealing Array all turned pale and trembled violently, almost suffering a backlash from the spirit array. Yin Lusheng was shocked, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Hua Feichen was also aghast. How is this possible? Didn't he just advance to the Emperor Realm? Although he couldn't see what Yang Kai had done just now because of the isolation of the spirit array, it was obvious that he had used some kind of powerful secret technique to affect the spirit array to this extent. How could someone from the Emperor Realm who had just advanced to the Emperor Realm achieve this? Hua Feichen thought that if he were trapped in this spirit array, he would only be able to wait for death, unable to shake the spirit array in the slightest. What he saw in front of him was so unreal. Kong. Another loud explosion rang out, and the black sphere that had just recovered expanded again, this time even more violently than before. Wa. A series of explosions rang out, and some of the 20 or so Tao Source Realm disciples coughed up blood as their bodies swayed. Yang Kai's previous attack had shaken them a little, and before they could recover, another attack came. This time they were really injured. Although their injuries weren't serious and wouldn't affect the operation of the spirit array, who knew how many times Yang Kai could release such an attack? If this were to happen a few more times, this formation might really be broken. Only with the help of the strange fog could they get rid of Yang Kai. Sha. Yang Kai walked over step by step, his eyes cold, giving Lin Er great pressure. Old Fu was eager to protect his master and had already flashed in front of Lin Er with a vigilant look. You're quite obedient. Yang Kai walked up to them, stood still and pointed his sword at them, saying coldly, since you're so honest, this young master can give you a quick death. Tell me, how do you want to die? Old Fu became anxious when he heard this. Is he serious? How many people in this world would dare point a sword at his young lady and ask her how she wants to die? Looking at the murderous look on Yang Kai's face, it seemed he really didn't intend to let them go. Thinking about it, he was bound by his young lady's emperor artifact and almost lost his life at the hands of the Netherworld sect's disciples. But how could his young lady die? If she died, this world would fall into chaos. Old Fu quickly said, Young master, it is better to squash enmity than keep it alive. This time we were wrong. Please show mercy and pretend today's matter never happened. How about it? Never happened? Yang Kai squinted at him angrily and coldly snorted, "Are the wounds on this young master's body fake? How can I pretend it never happened?" The wounds had not healed yet and the white bones were still exposed. How could he pretend this never happened? Old Fu's face darkened as he said, "This old master is saying this for your own good. If you insist on going about things the wrong way, a great disaster will surely befall you." Yang Kai was so angry that he laughed. "This young master knows you have a powerful background and have the backing of the master, but so what? Once you fall into this young master's hands, your life and death are in my hands. Losers should know their place, yet you still dare to boast so shamelessly? Do you believe I won't stab you with my sword?" Saying so, Yang Kai turned his sword and pointed it directly at Old Fu's chest. His wrist swayed and the sharp tip of the sword cut through Old Fu's clothes, scaring him so much that he hurriedly took a step back. The momentum he had been trying to muster instantly disappeared like a frosted eggplant. He was really afraid that Yang Kai would stab him in a fit of anger. If the young lady was killed, this guy would definitely be in trouble, but if he was killed, no one would stand up for him. He was a guard responsible for protecting the young lady's safety, but now that he couldn't even protect his own life, how could he protect the young lady? He had met someone who didn't care about his life. Old Fu's heart was filled with hatred. If he had known that this person was so strong, and if he had known that the Netherworld sex people were trash, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to cooperate with the Netherworld sect and brought the young lady to provoke Yang Kai again and again. Duan Hongchen suddenly shouted again with a strange expression on his face, "Who said this guy? What does he look like?" He suddenly remembered that there was indeed a guy who had fought side by side with him, and it was not long ago. Serene Soul did not answer and just waved her hand in front of her. The space between them quickly rippled, and a clear image was immediately imprinted in Duan Hongchen's eyes. It was the scene of Yang Kai holding the myriad sword and standing in front of the entrance of the ancient land's passageway, surrounded by corpses. Duan Hongchen glanced at it and the corner of his mouth suddenly twitched. How could it be this kid? The great emperors of Serene Soul was stunned. "You know him." Duan Hongchen's face suddenly became ferocious and he gnashed his teeth. "This seat will recognize him even if he turns into ashes. Serene Soul, quickly kill him and help this seat vent my anger. This seat will remember this favor." The great emperors of Serene Soul sighed. "Heaven-devouring great emperor of heaven-devouring great emperor, if you continue to be long-winded, this seat will not be polite to you. This seat's Serene Soul finger is not to be trifled with." He could tell at a glance that the one who had spoken was not Duan Hongchen, but the great emperors of heaven devouring great emperor of great emperors of heaven, Wukong, who shared a soul with Duan Hongchen. Duan Hongchen laughed strangely. "Serene Soul, how dare you speak to this seat with this kind of tone? I didn't see you with this kind of courage in the past." The great emperors of Serene Soul smiled. "This seat's Serene Soul finger is not to be trifled with." He did not mention what had happened in the past, so it was obvious that he had also suffered a great loss at the hands of the heaven-devouring great emperor. Duan Hongchen's face darkened. "Can't you change your lines? What's the point of threatening this seat with this?" The great emperors of Serene Soul's expression did not change and he still smiled. "This seat's Serene Soul finger? Fuck you." Even the great emperors of heaven devouring great emperor of great emperors of heaven could not help but curse at this moment. At this moment, Duan Hongchen suddenly shivered, and the ferocious expression on his face disappeared in an instant, replaced by a look of anger. No one would be in a good mood if their body was suddenly controlled by another soul. However, neither he nor the heaven-devouring great emperor could do anything to each other. Serene Soul saw that the heaven-devouring great emperor of heaven-devouring great emperor had been suppressed, so she asked, "Do you really know this kid?" "Oh." Duan Hongchen smacked his lips. "The kid I told you about before, this is him." Serene Soul raised her eyebrows. "He's the one who joined forces with you to attack the heaven-devouring great emperor? And he ruined the heaven-devouring great emperor's plan?" Duan Hongqin said helplessly, "That's right, but the situation is a little complicated, so I can't explain it in a short time. Anyway, you saw the end result." The great emperors of Serene Soul nodded lightly, so, he really wasn't bragging. What do you want to do with him? Duan Hongqin glanced at Yang Kai on the hologram in front of him with some worry. He knew that the great emperors of Serene Soul had descended somewhere, and it seemed that his troublemaking daughter had encountered some kind of danger. The descent of the great emperor's souls was no joke, so they had to get something out of it. Just like some treasured swords, once they were out of their sheaths they had to drink blood. The descent of the great emperor's souls would be shameful if they ran back without killing some people. If it was someone else it would not be a big deal, but Yang Kai. Duan Hongqin really did not want him to die at the hands of Serene Soul. In any case, he had helped a lot in the Shattered Star Sea. The dark python's eyes widened in an instant as it stared at the place where the blood door was located. Its eyes were filled with horror. It had no choice but to be afraid. The legend of the blood door was too terrifying. For so many years, the blood door had stood there without any changes. Who wouldn't be on tenterhooks when it suddenly appeared? However, this unforeseen event happened very quickly and didn't affect it, which made it feel a little relieved. After waiting for a long time, it didn't dare to act rashly. After a while, seeing that the blood door was no longer abnormal, it suddenly twisted its body. Accompanied by the sound of bones dislocating, the huge python's body that was more than 50 feet long underwent a huge change. In the blink of an eye, the python turned into a middle-aged man with a dark complexion, wearing a pitch-black robe and a malicious gaze. His mouth was still a bloody mouth filled with dense fangs. He was still holding his prey in his mouth, looking as frightening as it could be. With a slurping sound, the middle-aged man that the python had transformed into suddenly sucked the prey into his stomach. His stomach suddenly became round and rolling as if he was pregnant for 10 months. He stretched out his hand and patted his stomach, causing it to immediately deflate. Something big has happened. I have to report this to Master quickly. The middle-aged man muttered with a gloomy expression. Demonic chi surged from his body as he turned into a streak of black light and fled into the distance. Looking at the aura fluctuations emanating from his body, it was actually on the level of an 11th order master, almost equivalent to a Dao Source realm cultivator. An hour later, in front of a huge mountain outside the gate, a streak of black light approached from afar. The two monster race guards at the gate immediately became vigilant. One of them took out a bone hammer while the other held two bone spurs and glared at the black light. Who goes there? The monster race guard with the bone hammer shouted and pointed to the front. This is the Rhino Thunder Monster King's palace. Quickly show your true form or we'll kill without mercy. Kill without mercy. The monster with the two bone spurs also roared, his aura surging. The black light suddenly stopped not far in front of them and revealed its true form. It was the middle-aged man transformed from Dark Python. We're on the same side. Brothers, I am also a subordinate of the Rhino Thunder Master. I have something important to report to the Master. Please let him know. The middle-aged man cupped his fists and said. The two monster race guards at the gate glanced at each other and looked at him suspiciously. They couldn't blame the two monster race guards for not having good eyesight. It was just that there were many monster race cultivators here, and the Rhino Thunder Monster King controlled more than 100,000 monster race cultivators. They were all scattered across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Except for those they usually saw who would recognize each other. Moreover, the Rhino Thunder Monster King was not someone that anyone could meet. The monster race guard with the bone spurs coldly snorted, You say we're on the same side? What evidence do you have? The middle-aged man seemed to have expected this question and quickly reached out to take out something from his space ring and handed it over respectfully. The monster race naturally didn't know how to refine things like space rings, but they couldn't do anything to humans who came here to die. If a human cultivator died here, the space ring would naturally be snatched away by the monster race. The middle-aged man had also killed a human cultivator before, so he obtained a space ring. He usually kept everything in it, so it was very convenient. The human brain was really good. The artifacts and pills they refined were also very good. His black hair fluttering, his eyes cold, Yang Kai said expressionlessly, "You're not dead because you're still useful to me. Why do you think you can escape?" After saying this, he slashed forward with his sword. The charging steel-backed bristled boar couldn't dodge in time and crashed into the sword ray. Accompanied by a mournful roar, its huge body was neatly divided into two halves. Blood and intestines flowed all over the ground, and the two halves of its body continued to charge forward under the force of inertia. The demon general sitting on its back was also sent flying, crashing into more than a dozen large trees in succession before rolling under a tree root in a sorry state, unable to get up for a long time. Xing. A cold light flashed as a broadsword was pressed against the demon general's brow. The demon general was startled and his eyes became cross-eyed. Gradually he saw Yang Kai standing in front of him, looking down at him condescendingly. Cold sweat instantly oozed out of his forehead. The demon general knew that Yang Kai wasn't lying. He didn't die because he was spared, not because of his strength. If this human in front of him really wanted to take his life, it would be a piece of cake. Gudong. The sound of him swallowing his saliva could be heard. The demon general's face paled as he squeezed out a forced smile. Without any demeanor of a demon, he opened his mouth and begged for mercy. "Sir, please spare my life. Please spare my life." It wasn't Yang Kai's first time dealing with the monster race. When he was in Tong Xian Realm's Nine Heavens Holy Land, he had lived with many monster race people. He knew that these guys were no different from humans. There were many who were afraid of death. Although the one in front of him had a cultivation comparable to the Emperor realm, he was undoubtedly a coward. "Do you want to live or die?" Yang Kai asked coldly, the myriad sword in his hand moving forward. A trace of blood immediately oozed out of the demon general's forehead, causing him to tremble in fear and hurriedly say, "Live, I want to live. If you want to live, answer my questions obediently. If you dare lie, I'll immediately take your dog life." "Master, ask away." The demon general didn't dare to move, otherwise he would definitely nod his head like a chicken pecking at rice. Yang Kai's face sank as he asked, "I heard you mention a crazy woman earlier. Could it be that you've seen her?" When the demon general heard this, he immediately understood that some of the trouble he had encountered this time came from his mouth. This human powerhouse was undoubtedly related to that crazy woman. He swallowed his saliva and carefully asked, "Sir, may I ask if that woman is your Yang Kai glared and snorted coldly. I'm the one asking you a question, you only need to answer honestly. Yes, yes, yes. The demon general felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly said, I've seen her. Chapter 2568. Cultivating in the mountains. Yang Kai was unaware of the flowing time great emperor. Yang Yue was very tactful. Ever since he was sent away by Zhang Ruoxi that day, he hadn't shown his face again. However, Yang Kai wasn't afraid of him playing any tricks. Now that he had the soul seal in his hands, Yang Yue couldn't get rid of his control at all. If he dared to have any devious thoughts, he would be courting death. Zhang Ruoxi didn't come again either. She cultivated next door wholeheartedly. She now had the cultivation of the third order Dao Source realm. She had obtained a lot of benefits in the Shattered Star Sea, including the complete star source. Now was the time to integrate her star source, comprehend Emperor intent, and break through to the Emperor realm. A month later there was a knock on the door again. Yang Kai opened his eyes and waved his hand to open the door. Yang Yue walked in respectfully and cupped his fists. Master, there's news. Yang Kai was shocked. He stood up and shouted in a low voice, lead the way. The matter of his third sister couldn't be delayed. Only by resolving it as soon as possible could he find Xiao Xiao with peace of mind. Therefore, when he heard Yang Yue's report, he didn't want to delay for a moment and set off immediately. After leaving the room, Zhang Ruoxi, who had received Yang Kai's message, also hurried out. Their eyes met. Yang Kai nodded gently while Zhang Ruoxi followed Yang Kai without saying a word. A ray of light shot up into the sky, left the mountain, turned in midair, and flew in a certain direction. Along the way, Yang Yue described his discovery in detail. Over the past month, the 20 or so monster race subordinates who were still alive had been looking for his third sister. Half a day ago, a small monster race subordinate suddenly discovered something and quickly reported it to Yang Yue. However, they didn't dare to act rashly and alert the enemy. His third sister was too vigilant. Over the past few decades, they had found her many times but never succeeded in capturing her. Therefore, they had been watching her movements from afar and quietly following her. But then again, with the strength of Yang Yue's monster race subordinates, even if they fought her head-on, they wouldn't be her opponent. Yang Kai guessed that Yang Yue didn't know that his third sister was a second-order emperor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to come out valiantly a month ago. According to the report of his subordinates, third brother seemed to have been hiding under a river. It was a coincidence that he was able to discover him this time. Perhaps third brother had been hiding for too long and wanted to come out for some fresh air. Who would have thought that he would be exposed as soon as he left the river? Yang Kai couldn't help but sigh. It was indeed easier to work with more people. If he were to look for Yang Yue, who knew when he would be able to find him? Last time he had failed to kill Yang Yue and had instead subdued him. It was a wise decision. It wasn't a long journey, but before Yang Kai and the others arrived, a monster race cultivator flew towards them. Yang Yue took a closer look and hurriedly said, "It's one of us." He took the lead and walked towards the demon. The moment the two demons met, the demon was stunned. He then whispered a few words. Yang Yue's expression changed. He turned around and looked at Yang Kai uneasily. Seeing his strange expression, Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He asked in a low voice, "What happened?" Yang Yue said bitterly, "We've been discovered." Did third brother run away again? Yang Kai's expression darkened. Last time, third brother had run away and hid for a month. If he ran away again, he would have to hide for another month. He didn't have that much time to waste here. Chapter 2576. This was not an exaggeration. The rock spirits were born with the ability to control the laws of the earth. It was normal for them to move mountains and seas with a flip of their hand. Yang Kai turned to look at the rock giant and said, "He'll let you go. How about you let him go?" The rock giant snorted, "Anyone who dares to attack the rock spirit tribe is an enemy." He was unwilling to give up, which made Yang Kai speechless. "Young Master Yang, look." Xia Wuwei pointed at the rock giant, which meant that it was not that he did not want to let him go, but that he could not do anything about it. Yang Kai rubbed his forehead and looked at the rock giant helplessly. He said, "The Monster King is strong. If we fight again, both sides will suffer. As the saying goes, it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. How about you just let it go? You have nothing to lose anyway. You should let him go." The stone giant snorted twice. It seemed that he was still very reluctant. Xia Wuwei also flung his sleeves, very unhappy. Yang Kai looked at the rock giant and said sincerely, "Didn't you say that I'm an important guest of your tribe? Can you give me some face?" The rock giant huffed and puffed for a while, then said unhappily, "Fine, let's leave it at that." He was willing to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. Yang Kai immediately signaled to Xia Wuwei, "Let him go." Although Xia Wuwei was still a little reluctant, he couldn't change Yang Kai's mind. He could only push his monster chi, and in an instant, monster chi filled the air and rushed towards the black chains that were binding the stone giant. It was unknown what Xia Wuwei did, but after a few cracking sounds, the chains binding the stone giant fell to the ground. Seeing that the rock giant was free, Xia Wuwei immediately flashed behind Yang Kai. He was vigilant. It was not that he was afraid of the rock giant. It was just that this thing was not to be trifled with. If he took a punch, he would vomit blood. If he had a choice, Xia Wuwei did not want to fight with him. The rock giant only glanced at Xia Wuwei with a fierce look in his eyes. However, he kept his promise and did not do anything as soon as he was free. Yang Kai said, "Can you take me to Xiao Xiao now?" The stone giant nodded lightly. With a series of crackling sounds coming from his body, he directly transformed from 5 zhang tall to as tall as a person. All of a sudden he became much more refined. He waved his hand at Yang Kai, then strode out in large strides, treating Xia Wu as if he was nothing. That was what one would call condescending. Yang Kai hurriedly followed. Xia Wuwei had a sour expression on his face. After hesitating for a moment, he also followed. All the monsters were puzzled. They didn't know why the Monster King Master would listen to a human's instructions and release the stone giant that they had painstakingly captured. Xia Wuwei naturally couldn't be bothered to explain anything to them. He just walked up with a sullen face. After an incense stick's worth of time, the group left the underground palace. He returned to the ground. The stone giant turned its head and looked around. After identifying the direction, he didn't say anything. He stomped his feet on the ground and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the dense jungle. Seeing this, Yang Kai could only anxiously say to Xia Wuwei, "Monster King, please pay attention to what I asked you to do. After you find that woman, it would be best if you can capture her safely. If you can't, send someone to monitor her. I will be back. Don't hurt her." Xia Wuwei looked bitter, but he had to cup his fists and say, "Rest assured, young Master Yang. This king will not disappoint you. However, young Master Yang, you must be careful." He couldn't wait for Yang Kai to leave without returning. However, if Yang Kai was in any danger as a soul slave, he wouldn't have it easy either. Naturally, he didn't want Yang Kai to be in any danger. Yang Kai didn't have time to talk to him. He just nodded and wrapped Zhang Ruoxi in his Emperor Qi. Using his space principles, he disappeared and chased after the stone giant. The group of monster beasts watched Yang Kai leave before they came forward and looked at Xia Wuwei in confusion. They didn't know what the Monster King Master was up to. Xia Wuwei said with a sullen face, "Today's matter is not to be leaked, or you will be killed without mercy." The group of monster beasts were terrified and they all cupped their fists and said yes. The stone giant didn't seem to be able to fly, but its jumping ability was beyond imagination. Every time it jumped, it would cover a distance of several thousand feet, so its speed wasn't slow. After waiting for Yang Kai for a while, the stone giant saw that Yang Kai was quickly following and continued forward without looking back. He was undoubtedly very familiar with the ancient wildlands. Along the way, he avoided the territories of many powerful existences and didn't cause too many twists and turns. However, Yang Kai telling him not to embarrass Yang Kai seemed to have made him a little unhappy, so along the way he didn't want to communicate with him at all. Yang Kai wanted to ask him about the Stone Spirit Clan and Xiao Xiao, but he didn't have a chance and could only follow behind. She could also see that Yang Kai had something on his mind, so she didn't say a word and didn't dare to disturb him. The journey was rather depressing. After a full day and night in the ancient land, the stone giant in front of them suddenly stopped. The stone giant stood on top of a huge tree and looked into the distance under the morning sun. Schwa. Yang Kai's figure landed beside him and followed his gaze. In the depths of the jungle, there was a lush primitive land. Ancient trees towered into the sky, layer upon layer, and the morning clouds lingered in the air. It was a fairyland. The stone giant stretched out his hand, clenched his fist, and hammered his own chest, making a thumping sound. Jianghu she watched with a frightened expression, afraid that he would beat himself to death. Roar! The stone giant roared towards the sky, with an inexplicable emotion in his voice. The roar fluctuated, as if he was using some mysterious means to transmit a message. Walala. The surrounding birds flew away in fright and beasts scattered. Immediately afterward, in the depths of the jungle, another roar sounded, responding to the stone giant's call. Yang Kai's mood was surging because after arriving here he suddenly felt that somewhere in the jungle, there was an invisible telepathic connection that suddenly connected with him. This was a connection between bloodlines that couldn't be erased even after 10,000 years. Xiao Xiao's birth was catalyzed by Yang Kai using his own blood essence. In other words, Yang Kai's blood flowed in Xiao's body. This was a connection that went deep into his bones and could not be severed by anyone or anything. The elder has agreed to let you enter the tribal territory. Come with me. The stone giant next to him suddenly turned his head and said, then jumped down from the canopy and dashed through the jungle as nimbly as an ape. Yang Kai suppressed the excitement in his heart and followed suit. A gray figure half the height of a person dashed through the jungle towards Yang Kai's direction. The distance between the two sides was rapidly closing, and even though they were separated by thousands of trees, the two could clearly feel each other's existence. Yang Kai's movements paused and he suddenly stopped in place. Immediately afterward, in front of him, a gray light rushed towards him like a bolt of lightning. She was shocked, thinking that she had encountered a sneak attack and immediately summoned the 10,000 beast seal, but soon she realized that she had misunderstood. Because at this moment Yang Kai was actually smiling and stretching out his hand. The gray light didn't slow down and directly hit Yang Kai's body. Yang Kai's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His whole body was pushed back by a strong force and uncontrollably flew backwards, knocking down several trees in a row before gradually stabilizing. Ahem. Unable to catch his breath, Yang Kai almost suffered internal injuries. Xiao's hug was a bit violent. Leaning back against a half-tilted tree, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and patted Xiao who was constantly rubbing his head against him. Whoa! Xiao made a series of inexplicable sounds. Although Yang Kai couldn't understand what it was saying, he could clearly feel its joy and excitement. The excitement of reuniting after such a long time made it impossible for Xiao to control himself. As soon as they met, Xiao gave Yang Kai a barbaric bump. Soon Xiao seemed to realize that he had done something wrong and quickly got up. Half kneeling in front of Yang Kai, his pair of eyes nervously looked at Yang Kai for fear that he would be injured. He even reached out to pat the dust off Yang Kai's clothes. But the force was a bit too strong. It's okay. Yang Kai patted Xiao's head and seriously looked at him. After so many years, Xiao didn't seem to have changed much. However, Yang Kai clearly felt that his aura had become stronger. The stone giant who had led Yang Kai here was a little dumbfounded. That small hug just now was indeed just a hug to the Stone Spirit clan, but to a naturally weak human being, that hug was not something that just anyone could bear. Yet this human in front of him was unscathed and even had a smiling expression on his face. This human's body is a bit strong. Whoa. Xiao was still sobbing endlessly. If the rock spirit could cry, then it would surely be covered in tears by now, and its excitement was stuck in its chest, unable to be vented. Xiao jumped up and down while scratching its ears and cheeks like a monkey that had become a spirit, causing others to find it funny. Suddenly Xiao jumped to the side and opened his arms to hug a big tree. Who knows how long this tree has lived? It would take at least 3 people to wrap their arms around it. The tree's crown towered into the clouds, making Xiao, who was half the height of a human, look like a tiny ant in front of it. However, this hug caused the entire tree to shake violently. Xiao's roar instantly caused the ground to tremble. Dense cracks like a spider web appeared at the base of the tree, exposing the roots one by one. Oh, oh. Boom, Xiao Xiao continued to lower and raise his arms. Each movement made the tree shake non-stop. After 2 or 3 repetitions, the huge tree was uprooted and the surrounding soil was sent flying. This scene left Ruoshi dumbfounded. Chapter 2577. Little fool, why aren't you pulling up the honored guest? What are you doing? An old voice suddenly sounded in front of them. Although it was forceful, it was gentle and kind, making those who heard it involuntarily feel a sense of intimacy. Xiao Xiao shuddered violently as if in awe of the owner of this voice. He bounced back to Yang Kai's side and reached out to pull him up, looking at him foolishly. After venting his anger, he finally calmed down. Yang Kai raised his eyes and looked forward. What he saw stunned him. Stone spirits that were as tall as a human slowly walked out from various parts of the forest. With a rough count, there were actually 7 or 8 of them. Obviously, they had all sensed the commotion here and gathered over. Those pairs of round eyes were curiously sizing him up. The rock spirit in the middle was particularly prominent, but it wasn't because he was strong or tall. Compared to the other rock spirits, he was a little shorter. His short stature wasn't because of his height, but because his body was a little hunched. The first impression this rock spirit gave off was that he was old. His hunched waist was supported by a stone crutch. The stone skin on his body was also in a cracked state, which was the mark of the endless flowing time great emperor. On his chiseled chin was a small stone awl like a beard. Only his eyes were extremely bright, flashing with wisdom. The rock spirit clan's innate intelligence was worrisome, but Yang Kai didn't know why, but when he looked into the eyes of this old rock spirit, he saw the reflection of a wise old man. Yang Kai was in awe. He knew that this old rock spirit had probably lived for tens of thousands of years. At the same time, he also realized who this old rock spirit was. He cupped his fists. Bowing, he said, "Junior Yang Kai greets Elder. I took the liberty to disturb you. I hope Elder won't take offense." Hearing this, Zhang Ruoshi knew that this was a master and quickly bowed. The Elder chuckled. His laughter was extremely hearty. "No need to disturb you. My rock spirit clan has been waiting for you for a long time. Today you have finally arrived." "Waiting for me?" Yang Kai was stunned but soon seemed to recall something. He turned his head and glanced at Xiao Xiao, who was standing beside him. He smiled and patted Xiao Xiao's shoulder. He thought that it was because of Xiao Xiao that this so-called Elder Shirling said that he had been waiting for him. "Honored guests, you've come from afar and must be tired from the journey. Please follow this old man to rest. My rock spirit clan hasn't had a guest for many years." After the elder finished speaking, he didn't wait for Yang Kai's agreement and turned around to walk into the depths of the forest. Although he looked extremely old and had a walking stick in his hand, his stooped figure moved as if he was flying. Its speed wasn't any slower than the other rock spirits. As soon as he left, the rest of the rock spirits also followed him and left, but before they left they looked at Yang Kai with a strange gaze. Xiao Xiao grabbed Yang Kai's hand and whimpered a few times before dragging him away. Yang Kai was helpless and could only ask Zhang Ruoshi to follow. After walking for a short while, the group came to a place surrounded by some towering ancient trees. Each of these towering ancient trees was as thick as 10 people hugging around it. There was a tree hole under the tree root. The tree hole seemed to have been turned into a natural treehouse, and there were traces of living creatures living inside. Yang Kai looked at it curiously. He suddenly realized that these tree houses should be where the rock spirit clan lived. Thinking about it, these guys could easily transform into dozens of feet tall and hundreds of feet tall. Ordinary houses really couldn't withstand their torment. This kind of natural treehouse was the best habitat for them. The female wood spirit who came to serve Yang Kai seemed to be the one who flew away shyly after being stared at by Yang Kai. Seeing her struggling to carry the wine jars, Yang Kai could not bear it and hurriedly said, "I can do it myself, there is no need to trouble yourself." As soon as these words came out, the female wood spirit could not help but turn her head to look at him. Her eyes reddened and tears welled up in her eyes. It was truly a pitiful sight. Yang Kai was sweating profusely. He did not know what he had said wrong and hurriedly cast a pleading look at the elder. The elder chuckled and said, "Although the Wood Spirit clan is extremely xenophobic, anyone who can become their guest will be able to experience their hospitality. Serving wine to a guest is the most basic etiquette. If the guest refuses, it means that they have not done a good enough job and will be ostracized by the entire clan." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.